to the 6, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by the visit Glen Rock, need crypto told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix. With that rare candy paint job on the whip, who you with?
Right. Another deep dive special. This one's going to be 2 parts. William Friedkin, we miraculously did in 2 hours. I felt like it was longer, but I looked it up today, but it was miraculously in 2 hours. I was surprised at how well that episode did. Sometimes when you stray away from the typical formula, some people just don't run to it right away, but a lot of people really liked it. Now, I'm going to bring to you guys an even more interesting subject than William Friedkin. Infinitely more interesting. And I say this as somebody who's a massive William Friedkin fan. We're covering the life. He's not dead yet. I keep forgetting he's not dead, by the way.
He's a vampire.
Isn't it weird? Like, don't you feel like as you're reading about him, you're like, oh yeah, but he died. And you're like, no, he didn't actually.
No,
he died. In American terms, he's dead.
Yeah.
But he went to Europe as vampires do. And and is over there now. But we're talking about the life of Roman Polanski. Now, the guest here today did a lot of the planning for this episode. He might not think he did, but he did. And it's Cody. Do we say your name? Is it just Cody? What do we say? I always
Cody,
forget.
LaDuke, whatever.
Cody LaDuke. Okay, yeah. I never knew if you're trying to hide from anybody's, but so
man, maybe after this one, we'll see.
I was gonna say, well, yeah, we'll wait till because we're saving. Everybody's gonna try to click around. I will timestamp this because I am a nice person. I will timestamp these, but part 2 is when we talk about the pedophilia. Okay. Yeah. So if you guys are here,
you gotta build to that.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna have to give us some time to be mad at us for this. Now, a couple things about Roman Polanski. Now, the reason I said you had a big take this is you said you were reading his autobiography. There's a lot of people that don't know he has an autobiography because you can't find it anywhere. It's like I had to go to Abe Books. By the way, really weird. They sent me 2 copies. I was only charged for one. The second one, first edition. It was a white cover, first edition with red text. I'm not touching that. I'm keeping both. That
might be the one I have actually.
Okay, so yeah, it's it ended up being a first edition. So I was like, that's crazy. But yeah, it came out in 1984, I want to say. So obviously the whole 90s and 2000s is not contained in this. But you get a really good idea of how we got there, and some of the major moments of Polanski's life are absolutely. He doesn't really dance around anything. Let's just say that much. He is very candid about the stuff he did. He play-by-played that 1977 moment. He play-by-played it in there. It's shocking, to be honest. I kind of thought he was gonna. All he does is change
I squirmed a bit, I'll be honest.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's like you're like, and the way he's talking about it, he's like, yeah, I mean, fuck it. I mean, it's what happens, right? Crazy shit. And that's kind of the tone he has to all of it. And then he's like, why am I in jail? The fuck? Like,
and he's like, I kind of like it, honestly.
Yeah, he's like, actually, the jail bros are sick, to be honest. Yeah, but let's take it way back. Now, you remember Cody. A lot of people, if you're on the premium feed, he's been on all the Welbeck episodes, including the one that has yet to come out on Submission, which I think was our best so far. They keep getting better and better. So you can check him out there, as well as Solaris and Richard Matheson's Hell House, 2 wonderfully underrated books, in my opinion. So, and by the way, we are doing a sale up until the 31st. So by the time this comes out, you'll have just a couple days. March 31st, 40% off of yearly and monthly subscriptions. That translates to $3 and $33. You could basically get us for a year. You'll get 52 episodes, by the way, in that year on that feed for $33. I'm not good at math. I know we're getting robbed blind, so whatever. Again, sign up in the next couple days, and with that, let's move on. Roman Polanski. I didn't know anything. I felt really stupid when I first opened the book, and I was like, oh, yeah, what was his life early in Eastern Europe like? Oh, the Holocaust.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Really
opening
interesting.
Number.
Harrowing stuff, which is funny to hear because he is so nonchalant The whole book is nonchalant. The only time you really see him get really flustered is when Sharon's gone. That is really when he just completely becomes this, rightfully so dramatic, really emotional in it. He's talking about the Holocaust like, they started building us in. They started walling us in the ghetto. They started walling us in. The way he talks about it is fascinating. And
Manson hurt him so much more than Hitler, which is kind of crazy to think about.
That happens. I mean, he's probably not the only one. There's probably like a couple other people who power rank Manson a little higher, in as far as the terror.
Also, the wife versus the parents. It's like the parents,
well, and they got one. Only one went in the Holocaust.
I thought it was both.
No, but so the critical, both got captured. One passed away. So, that's really interesting because he starts out. He's born in Krakow, Poland, I think it was, and again, these cities in Poland, whatever. When it was it's on the border. Now his real name, I forget what his real name is, but he switched to Roman because the way people said his actual name sounded like gay, or it was kind of like an insult or something. So he's like, well, I'll just be Roman. Romek, which in a Polish accent comes out as like, it would be like if my name was Tom Daggett. You know what I mean? Something like that. Yeah, they're like, pretty close.
There was
your nickname dropped.
Yeah,
there was like a shipping company in town here like 10 years ago. His name was Gaylord. It was rough.
Gaylord,
Gaylord.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And which to be fair wasn't an insult till like 1960. So like the family had. Like you'll hear Ayn Rand novels where they're like, and it was a gay party. We had drinks and, and it was like literally only straight people, we think, presenting as straight at least. And then, Polanski gets, right away, we get immediately into his dad is, I forget what his dad does for a living, but has a typewriter and that was how he learned English, was watching his dad type on the typewriter, or learned Polish too. I think was actually the case, was looking at the typewriter, and he wasn't in school during basically the entire time. This guy did not go to school until communist film school, but we have a long way to go before that. Krakow, Poland is right on the border, which it's a border town. We have like Texas, Mexico border towns. Yeah. Picture this, but way scarier. Scarier. I'll say it for now. But we'll say, I think they had about 20 years of just pure scariness, if not longer. So Germans start invading. And one thing you get out of, and I'm not a historian of World War II, I've only seen stuff through film and stuff. I know there's a lot of people who this might be obvious to, is how banal it happened. Like a lot of times he's like, they just kind of showed up and said they were like your friend for a while. And like, then all of a sudden you're just like not allowed to do anything. And then you're like, what the fuck, dude? You're like checking the bread canisters for like stuff in my house. Like it really was quick, which that's to be said about a lot of things, 2020, a lot of things. Like, it's like a lot of people just show up and they're like, we're here to help you. By the way, you have no rights. And so Krakow, Poland, they're thinking, well, this is a border town. We got to get out of here. We got to get more centered into town. Let's go to Warsaw. The family moved to Warsaw. Worse. In fact, Krakow saw the least amount of fighting compared to some of the other towns. And Warsaw, I believe, I can't remember if there's actually a camp built there, but if Auschwitz is not as far away, there is a childhood of just constantly looking over his shoulder, hanging out in the literal ghettos that would just fence in these communities and then just grab. It was like very dystopian. People would be gone and their stuff would be gone the next day. And they'd be like, what happened to so-and-so? They'd be like, well, they deported her. Now, these people didn't know what was happening at the camps. At least maybe the adults did, but the kids definitely didn't. They don't know what's happening at these camps. They think deported. This is what they think, deported. And turns out that's not the case because Roman Polanski's mom gets taken. His dad was taken eventually too, but his mom was taken. When his dad gets out, his dad finally, with the house, they used to just like pawn him off to families and like pay them and stuff like, hey, you take Roman. And apparently they say Roman didn't look Jewish as a kid, which I look at him, I'm like, that's a Jewish man, but whatever, you know, sure. Eastern European, maybe it's a little tougher to tell over there, but apparently he could blend in. They could launder him in families and it wasn't a big deal. When they knew there was going to be a sweep, they would push him off on this family, have a little method and stuff, and then basically be like, okay, if we go, but our kid is safe.
He's Aryan passing, as they say.
I think he might be Aryan passing. I don't know. To me, he does not, but I would clock him personally. But
I just don't see stuff like that.
No, Well, I don't know. He's like, first off, like, short. He's like really short. So that's always like off the bat kind of, I know they're not all short, but some of them are. Woody Allen, like just real short guys. And you're kind of like, okay, decent sized nose. Like, I feel like if I was a soldier, I would double take. I would be like, okay. Yeah.
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah. Just exactly. Like, I feel like it would, but anyways, he claims that he was able to pass, and we think that that's the case as well. And he gets pushed off onto this other family and finds out his mom's been taken. His mom gets gassed in the showers, and he finds out from his dad later, where only his dad comes out and his mom was gassed. It sucks. Like, it's just like, wow, brutal. And he really loved his mom. There's those times where they were running away from, when they were all together, a family unit, and the camps weren't quite built yet, and they were just running away from German warfare, and they would hide out. And there were these really like sad points where the mom said no one's allowed to take their shoes off when they'd finally get to like a place they could squat at, essentially, because you might have to run. And they would go try to make like cookies out of like they would try to make cookies out of just basically nothing that you could find, like the bare minimum stuff so they could sell to then just have some money. And it was really, really sad. I mean, I just didn't know anything about this, which makes his 2001 movie, The Pianist, which we're probably not going to talk much about that, but like it definitely, you definitely understand why, that movie had to be made by him. He had to make a movie like that. Yeah.
And that's the one that got him the Oscar.
Of course. It's Adrian Brody.
It's an Oscar bait movie, but
it's Brody with Eastern Europe. Brody, come on. It's a guaranteed nom. Guaranteed nom.
Yeah.
And,
Brody, another hard to tell Jewish guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's tall. To be fair, I'd be like, "Nah, you're too tall."
Oh, yeah.
They'd be like, "Dude, look at him." Nah, too tall. Yeah,
That's crazy. It wasn't his that was his first Oscar until this latest one, right? Big Gap. He's one of those Big Gap guys.
Yeah, well,
Brody.
Adrian Brody in like 2012 was in like Redbox tier movies.
Yeah,
like you would just see him like with,
dude.
Like,
I watched
Tara Reid, like a movie with like Tara Reid in like 2013, and Adrian Brody.
I watched one where he was a scientist doing like hybrid human cloning. It was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it was so bad. It was so bad.
I mean, I think for a while when they're just like, okay, The Brutalist, terrible movie. I've talked about it a million times, but like Brutalist, maybe they were, because they're like, oh, the big thing about The Brutalist is only $10 million. It's only $10 million, guys. So it's like,
so you have to like it,
yeah, or just like factor it in if you're going to criticize it. It's like, I don't. It's like you could have done
10
more.
million too many, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I was, and to be honest, like that's not nothing. I refuse to say that that's nothing, And but then I wonder, because they're like, Adrian Brody hasn't done shit in a long time. Like, he was in Succession. I remember that. That was like the last time I saw him. But it was episode. He was just like some tech bro in Succession. But
I only got like 3 episodes into Succession.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everybody. But he gets but then I bet you with The Brutalist, they were like, we can get Adrian Brody. We already know he can do the fucking persecuted Holocaust victim guy. Like we could get him for cheap right now. We could buy low on Adrian coin. We're gonna get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. With Polanski, he takes L after L after L after L. I mean, it's very nihilistic, which also contextualizes his 70s film catalog. Because I would black pill hard if a sliver of one of these events happened to me.
Yeah.
So it's sad.
It's like it starts out as like a Charles Dickens novel set in like World War II Poland. And he actually does make an Oliver Twist adaptation in 2005, I think.
That's right.
I haven't seen it.
No.
Might be good, might not. I don't know.
It probably is. Like,
yeah.
I bet that it is.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did we watch? Like 8 movies for this? Like, I was like, that's
Something
all
like
we're
that,
doing.
yeah.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
all we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, too bad. Yeah. You know, there's that one person that's like, I mean, you call this a deep dive? You didn't watch all of the quiz? Like, you know, there's that one person. Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
There's a lot of movies he did that are like for completionists. Like, I guess me,
yeah.
at this point, I'm probably just going to watch them all if I can. Like,
Sure.
there's some I can't because they didn't get distribution in America, and I don't particularly like pirated movies.
No. I had to watch Bitter Moon on Internet Archive. Which, God, that was my only option. I did, but otherwise, yeah. So what happens, you know, with this? There's constant things about friends that he has, like these little friends, and like he'd be like, you know, all of a sudden his friend would get kidnapped and deported, and perhaps worse. I mean, you kind of just don't know what happens to some of these people, but you get the idea. Maybe you do. Good news though, Germans lost the war. So the Germans lost the war, so we're good.
Yeah, all good. No
We're all
problems
good.
here.
Nothing's yeah. Like
Except
Poland is back. Yeah, apparently.
Poland was one of these Eastern European countries that in the 20th century was first fucked over by the Nazis and then fucked over by the communists.
Fuck, dude. Within days. It's crazy how they talk about it. He talks about it like they finally start celebrating. Like the dude was like, this dude handed me like a rifle and he started just shooting it on the balcony. Like, I'm so pumped. And then all of a sudden, like, he's like, we don't know who these people are. Like, they've never been in school. None of these people have, like, their whole lives were just basically completely railroaded and they haven't known anything. And then they're all of a sudden they're like these Russians, right? Or Stalinists. Well, I think they're Stalinists. I don't know the history of it too well, but they come in and there's this really tough moment where it's like the place is bombed out, but they promise they're going to build it up, build back better even. They promise they're going to do that. And but they realize they're like, man, it's like these soldiers are like being kind of chill with us, but they're constantly just watching us all the time. Like, they're kind of just like posted up with their presence and just staring us down. And I'm like, I don't know. Anyways, whatever. Polanski's super into cycling at the time, and that's kind of like his passion. I remember he eventually traded in. He wanted a projector because he loved the cinema. It was the one thing, you know, kind of Inglourious. But you realize how much of Tarantino's movies are homages to Polanski. Because like Inglourious Bastards, super Polanski nod. But you know, just a lot of he loved going and watching just whatever. And I think there were after a while though, certain Western movies weren't allowed because of communism and stuff. So it's like the cinemas took a dive, and Polanski really wanted a projector. He really wanted one. I remember they said there's that story where he found a bunch of figurines and traded them in at a pawn shop for like a projector. And they're like, you know, you like need other things besides this. And he's like, that's fine. And took it. It's like the Johnny Cash song, One Piece at a Time, where he's stealing an entire car part by part from the auto plates that he works. And so when he gets that, you know, he gets that projector, and his whole idea is he wants to go into film school. He's like, this is what I want to do. I want to go into film school. Pretty tough to do in Eastern Europe, communist, you know, Eastern Europe. It's very tough to do. There's all sorts of committees that you have to, even if you are approved, every single action that you do has to be approved by the film committee and stuff, which isn't as uncommon as people think. French have that too. Like, there's a lot of freedom of speech is uniquely American, guys. That's what you need to learn. Tell yourself every single time. This seemed like a really terrible thing. This kind of Polanski just constantly just goes like, I don't like this shit. He goes, I don't know what's good, but I know it's not this. Because you think about a guy who's literally only seen hardcore fascism and communism happen back to back in his life. That's about it. So his dad, unfortunately, has the worst occupation you could have in a communist society. He's a small business owner. So he has a small business owner, and he has a friend who has his big fat mom. He always calls it like big fat mom has a bakery. So his mom dies, and he told this moment where the mom dies. The big fat mom has this wonderful bakery, and immediately as she's being taken out, all the furniture's out, and they're literally like repainting it to be a worker co-op. Like while it's happening, like the body's barely cold yet. And he's just like, this is insane. And they're just like waiting for these. And then there's that whole thing where all of traditional Polish currency was rendered useless like overnight. So all the business owners, small business owners, basically got liquidated, got
Yeah.
wrecked, as they say in the coin community.
And this was probably particularly brutal for Poland because not like 20 years earlier, the Russians actually tried to invade Poland once before, and Poland themselves beat them back over like 3 years. It was the Soviet-Polish War of like 1920 or something, and Poland by themselves beat back the Soviets. This is before the Nazis, and it's kind of crazy story. Yeah.
And then the Russians mobilized under an absolute psycho of Stalin. And then they were like, then you just become Nick Saban, Alabama. It's rough at the time. You know, it's just they mow down Germany. And again, the Polish people for a while, they're like, thank you for doing that. You guys have chill stuff, right? Yeah, we do. No, it's cool. It's great. We came here to do chill things. Yeah, and that doesn't seem to be the case. And there are people who actively fight for this to happen in America. But just letting you guys know. Like, they don't know. They might not even know that that's what they advocate for. That's the sad part. Some of them do, though, and think that it's good, actually.
They're mad that we don't, too.
Yeah, and they're mad that you don't. Well, it's communal thinking. I mean, you have to. Like, literally, the one person, you cannot have dissent. And I remember there was that part in the biography where there was this, like, based old, like, I cannot remember the name of the old Polish rebellion that happened when the Russians invaded the first time, but there was Polanski had a friend who's
partisan or something
like that. Like something like that. And there was the dad that was saying they've already like wiped us out of the history books. They don't give us any credit for beating Russians for first time because it was them. They're like, oh, that didn't happen. They like erased that. We never lost to them, not once.
Yeah, actually, I was looking at a Letterboxd review for an Andrzej Wajda movie. This is a character that will come up soon. Polish film director,
right. Very influential.
Roman's like teacher basically, and he had made a movie about this. I think it's the movie Catan. I think it's what it's called. It's about this like massacre of Polish. I don't know exactly what happened in this town Catan, that the Soviets killed them all. And then I was looking at Letterboxd review of this movie, and it was like, this is all like reactionary nationalist propaganda. Like all the communists like hate Poland for some reason, which is kind of makes sense.
I actually, in fact, I learned it from this biography.
Yeah,
I was surprised how much I learned from it. And again, I'm trying to find. I didn't see if there was like another person that helped write it with him. It kind of seemed like it was just him. I don't know. To me,
I think it was. There could have been a ghostwriter. I don't know.
Maybe someone to structure it or like help. But you figure Polanski, when he would get a screenwriter and he would just basically take over the script and make it his way. And I wonder if it was a similar where it was like he had because his voice is very present in this, and it's really interesting. And there's also great pictures in here. I cannot stress enough. I cannot stress enough how much people need a hard copy of it. Looks beautiful, love it. So he basically tries forever to get into these film schools. Now the one thing for a while is like he kind of can't really. They were rolling out like new ID cards and stuff, and he was still under the impression that he didn't want to like let anyone know that he was Jewish. So he's kind of hiding from people. And in fact, I remember when his family hid him on that farm for a long time with those rural people and stuff. Like he's constantly hiding out, like in the countryside. But much like a lot of people that. When you're facing like a true evil, they will come find you. Like you're not going to take refuge. It's only temporary and stuff, but he can't, he wants to find a way to get to France. He thinks France is the place he's going to be able to do it. Germans aren't occupying France at the moment. And he's able to, he's like, his friends were going to help him hide in a bathroom ceiling of a train to go from Poland to France. This is just so he can like maybe just make some movies and just get out of here and stuff. Like it's really like he doesn't have a contract. He's not lined up, I don't believe, to do anything at the moment. It's literally like what people do now when they go to New York on like their parents' time, except none of that. None of that. He wants to do this, but he realizes in Poland he finally gets into a film school, and the film school's still heavily communist. He realizes he does not want to make movies this way, because who does? Nobody with that. I mean, he's not quite an auteur, though. I would make the argument he is a lot of times.
I would
Yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about it with Chinatown, the redification of the
Yeah.
Chinatown Robert Town script.
Yeah.
Might as well put an E at the end of Chinatown if you're going to fucking, it's just, my gosh. So the, he's definitely, I've lost my train of thought here. He's trying to, he's in school and he doesn't want to do it that way because obviously he wants to be a psycho. He wants to own it all. He wants to be the guy yelling, you do this, you do that. And he doesn't want people beside him to saying, no, we need to inspect this for patriotic stuff and make sure that you're not social realism, all of these terms, which really, really echo a lot of what you hear in like wokeness. I'm not trying to say that these people are like Stalin. I'm not doing that. What I mean is they always dress it up in terms.
Yeah.
And what they're actually doing is taking a flamethrower, Rick Dalton style, to the word art when they do that. Yeah. So, anyways, he gets a camera and some film and stuff. Here's the problem though. He wants to make this movie privately. I think it's like the bicycle movie. I can't remember which movie it is. So. It's like the movie about a bicycle, a very short film. And he wants to make this movie with no input other than perhaps just the people he's making it with. The problem is you can't get your film developed because all of the development studios are nationalized and stuff. So your prints would be like, they'd be like, well, where did you shoot that? Who did this? But he had an in of a guy who was able to launder it in with every so often and make these, process these dailies and get them all together. Again, if I'm getting some of the terms wrong, I think people understand what I'm trying to say here. They're trying to make a film privately, something that right now we can do on our iPhone. Yeah. But this guy is just like, we would give up when our iPhone doesn't have an app. You know what I mean? A lot of us would. Like this guy's just like, no, I'm going to like find a guy who works at this place. I'm going to get it done. And his determinism is so cool. He was oil and vinegar to a communist country. He knew it and could not wait to move west. It was
there. I had kind of felt this when I had done a little bit of research on Polanski, but actually finally reading the biography, there's a lot of interesting correlations to Ayn Rand in like, he's not as like, he's obviously much more
Eastern Europe, right? Eastern Europe.
Yeah. Eastern Europe. He's not as like firebrand. He's much more like just kind of annoyed with everything, but the correlations you see, the stuff that goes on in We the Living, of all the movies that are getting like changed when they come to the Soviet Union. So there's he's basically like a Randian by proxy.
Well, yeah, and it's without ever really knowing she existed and stuff, but like there are these type of people. The reason her stuff was so popular is because there were people that existed like that. It wasn't it was packaged in a look at this hero, this like mythological figure, but there were people who operated this way. Yes, you do have to consult people. Yes, you do need help with a lot of this stuff. It's not, but he just realized like, I don't want to make government slop.
Yeah.
That's just basically what he said. And he was willing. I mean, what are you going to say? He's already been faced with death for most of his life. So just the constant threats of death, like, I'm sure they're scary, but like, he's like, what else do I do? I mean, someone's trying to kill me. Literally, like every moment of my life, somebody wants me dead. So I can't let that affect what I want to do. And so eventually he gets approved to make Knife in the Water, which I think is the first movie. I will say this. I didn't care for the movie the way a lot of people do. I think it's fine. It's a very, very impressive debut given what he was doing and when you know what he was doing with it. I don't know if it works for me all that well, but it is impressive for somebody coming from where he came from.
I like it a lot, but it is just very
boring.
Much a kind of
it's
tech
fucking
demo.
Boring. I don't know.
I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but I find the whole I love all of the discussion Polanski does of all of the making of all of his movies and how much detail he goes into.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
The way they're shooting on this like speedboat thing and just all the weird shit that he has to deal with doing that. So it's a very like technical, like a filmmaker's film. Like it's not, as far as thrillers go, it's not the most like exciting thing, but it's definitely something that like what we would call today like a calling card or something.
Yeah, and it on this so Knife in the Water is basically like a guy and his wife. It's a classic Polanski premise. A guy and his wife whose marriage is already kind of on stilts, though they present as though it's not. But behind closed doors, we see that's clearly the case. They pick up a hitchhiker, and it's always, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? This is something that I would never be doing, but it feels right. And this person feels like an arbiter, in our demise. And then you find out that guy, he's not chill, the guy you let on the boat. And it's not a good idea to be doing that. So that's a classic Polanski. He does this movie a lot better later in Bitter Moon, in my opinion. That's my take. Yeah. It basically same premise, but with much more, it's just better. But anyways, I have a section, one of the best sections of the book, where he talks about the actress Jolanta. I don't know Polish. I think I am Polish partially, but I don't know how to say any of this shit. But Jolanta Umeka, who is the actress, the main love interest. Now, he cast Jolanta Umeka because he wanted somebody who looked plain in regular clothes, but the minute she's on a boat with two men who aren't really thinking much about her, the minute she goes in a bikini, they want the dudes like mine to be like, oh, fuck. That's like, that was what he wanted out of this. Yeah. But this was the problem he ran into with her dietary habits on set. Polanski movies normally take a long time. He needs you to stay in shape for a long time. That was not the case. So I would start with this. It's a long section, but I think it's worth it. But my real cross, both on set and off, was Jolanta Umeka, my swimming pool discovery. For one thing, she couldn't swim. That's a problem. Frykowski, it's a boat movie, but Frykowski attempted to give her a crash course, but it was no use. We ended up by hiring a double. As for her acting, the problem wasn't merely inexperience that I'd taken for granted. What exasperated me was having to direct someone who couldn't remember her lines, or where to put her feet, or when to take off her sunglasses, in the simplest of takes. More irritating was Jolanta's utter passivity. The naturalness and artlessness that had so impressed me at first sight turned out to be manifestations of a genuinely bovine temperament. It goes on. We tried gentle persuasion and infinite forbearance. Then we goaded into rougher tactics designed to jolt her out of her zombie-like state, all to no avail. In the end, we resorted to foul language, not for meanness' sake, but to shock her into any kind of response. In the scene where she thinks the youth has drowned, she is startled to see him reappear and pull himself aboard. We did take after take and got nowhere. Finally, Kostenko hit on the idea of firing a flare pistol behind her back at the appropriate moment. That did the trick. By this time, we were in a state of complete frenzy. Well, quote, "Well, did that help you, bitch?" I yelled. "Yes," she said serenely. "It helped." We had yet another problem with Jolanta. She started putting on flesh at an alarming rate. The sexy Jolanta of the early takes threatened to become unidentifiable with the chubby Jolanta. Again, if you see pictures of her in the movie, this is hilarious. It would be considered skinny now. The chubby Jolanta she was fast becoming. Something had to be done. Kostenko and I took her jogging, hauling her along by a belt attached to her wrist when she flagged. We ordered the cook to serve her smaller helpings with no seconds, but it did no good. We soon found out why. Jolanta was a secret glutton who hoarded bread, apples, and sausages beneath her bunk. It was Laskowski who discovered the awful truth. "Kit inspection, sir," he barked, laying out the fruits of his research on her blanket. I thought she might be less observed with food if she had some sex. Or less obsessed with food if she had some sex. I love that. I like how Plan D is like sex for sure. Somebody fuck this fat cow. Someone take one for the team. This became a recurrent topic of conversation among the men on board, but no one volunteered to sacrifice himself for the common good. The only person who betrayed a flicker of sexual interest in Jolanta was Zillowitz, who, for all his prim and precious ways, had lecherous inclinations. He kept tweaking. He found the nastiest motherfucker. He kept tweaking her bikini top during her rehearsals. Quote, I see it more like this, tweak. A shade fuller here, a fraction tighter there. Jolanta's ravenous appetite developed into a standing joke. On one of our morning trips to the set, Frykowski took a small piece of styrofoam from a rip in a life jacket and started munching on it. anything to do with eating was guaranteed to attract Jolanta's attention. With his mouth full, Frykowski explained that the stuffing in our life jackets was a form of emergency ration. We all followed this example and chewed on bits of styrofoam. Jolanta took a piece, chewed it, and swallowed it. Grimacing at its taste and texture, she gamely said, "I'm sure it's very nourishing." So this is where you get kind of like who he is, because we're only hearing, and you get glimpses of it. He kind of knows he's a shithead. He talks about it all the time. He's like, I'm fucking off all the time. I'm constantly playing pranks on people. But he also had a lot of stuff done to him. Like, I remember there was the guy who said, I'll sell you this sick ass like Tour de France cycling bike. It's just down here. Get the money. It's just down here. And they clubbed him in the back of the head. And then he was like, wow.
Skull.
Yeah. And they're like, that guy was a dick. They're like, yeah, he's wanted for 3 murders. They're like, oh, it's worse than that. Yeah. And then he's like, do you need me to testify? They're like, no, he killed 3 people. Like, we're not charging him for your crime. And they're like, what are you doing buying a bike without telling the government? So yeah, it's knife in the water. Like I said, if you're a completionist, it is like, it's watchable. It's not as bad as the worst Polanski. I'll say that much. There are some duds that Polanski has. I think he has a more interesting filmography than Kubrick. I say that only with I don't even know if I believe that. Kubrick has fewer misses. In fact, I don't know if he has any. But like, I don't know if he has any like just outright misses. Polanski's interesting.
And that comes from just Polanski made more movies than Kubrick.
Made more movies. He was much more of a working director. Yeah.
Polanski has 10 good movies. Kubrick does. But Polanski also made 30 other movies. So.
Yeah, and Polanski was a slave. One thing he sucks at is like the actual comedy movie. Yeah. When he decides that a movie is like, I'm making a capital C comedy movie, it's very bad. Almost every time.
Run for the hills if you see a Polanski comedy.
But if his movies are like psychological thrillers with comedy in them, it's some of the funniest stuff you'll see. So
he's also like the funniest guy alive when you read his book. Like he's hilarious.
But then like a lot of times, like, well, she had the fish on their hat. Like that's like a lot of like the thing. It's like that's not funny. It's like, oh, if you were from Poland, you would get it. Like it's just it's like a lot of that shit is just not funny, unfortunately. So I'm looking at what's next in his filmography. After
would have been Repulsion.
Yeah, the London film. Yes. London, 60s London, sick ass place to be. Very cool. Very fun. He's just like, yeah, you could just get pussy all the time. It's just like just Austin Powers pussy like all the time. Just fembot girls coming around. You're at like, all of these like incense and peppermints ass like parties in London, and you're just wheeling and dealing and meeting people. He is,
and as far as we know, they are all of age.
Yeah, and they're probably not. But like, I don't think they were. And it's just like,
as far as maybe we know,
maybe not 14, not 14. But I would guess there were some girls. I mean, we know how he met Nastasia Kinski. Yeah. So when she said, "My name is Nasty, you can call me Nasty," and she was like 14. Like, yeah. So yeah, that's a very funny part that we'll get to in part 2. But so he's in I don't know the studio that contracts him to make the Repulsion movie, but he ends up what is
Hammer?
Yes.
I want to say it was Hammer.
Yeah, Hammer. So it was a place that like I guess for a while I forget, didn't they do like porn or something? Or it was like some weird like they specialized in something else, but they realized that horror was becoming kind of popular. So they wanted to make like a horror.
Maybe it was Hammer was a distributor. So
Hammer
came in at
something point. Happens, but there was like a studio that normally is like, we don't do this, but we'll take this fucking Pollock and make a horror movie out of it.
Yeah,
he'll work for cheap, and he would. He was like, "I'll work for. Just let me make a film." And his director fee. I feel like he hardly ever got his director fee in half these movies. Yeah. I feel like most of the time,
basically like, until Rosemary's Baby, he's
and like, even then, I think he was like willing to give that up for more editing time and like and for Chinatown and stuff. Like he for the most part was like, it is about money. Like, I want money. He was very much loved American decadence and materialism. Like, he was all about it. But for the most part, he's like, just let me make a movie and shut the fuck up. Usually it worked for one movie. A lot of times. Usually they would let him do it for one movie. The second movie, they're like, Roman, you can't have 6 months to do this now. And he's like, damn it. But Repulsion is good.
We'll try it.
Repulsion is, in my opinion, his first good film. Just like good, really good.
He
film.
did, which is interesting.
He doesn't like it because he did have to make concessions in the editing process. I don't know what he talks about what they were, and I'm like, what you wanted in there. It's very much Apocalypse Now. If you've seen the director's cut of Apocalypse Now, it's terrible. It has 30 minutes of something that does not need to be in the movie. Straight up one scene of 30 minutes that makes it a 3-hour film, and it's just not. I think there's one other one. There's another really good Brando scene that maybe should have been in the original cut, but other than that, you're like, I'm so glad that the studios told you not to do that. Like, I'm so glad the studios decided that was a worthless fucking scene. And
also Polanski saying that Repulsion is his worst movie is just a giant flex, because it's like, if any other director makes Repulsion, it's like the best movie of their career.
And people love it. And people love it. And basically, this is the start. And again, he does not, I don't think he ever acknowledges this.
He
or
doesn't
anything, but
call it the apartment trilogy.
Apartment trilogy. It's a span of 8 years of 3 films in 8 years, all taking place of basically women going crazy no, if you accept the modern definition of women, it does involve 3 women going insane in an apartment. The second one being Rosemary's Baby, the third one being the Tenant. Now Repulsion is what I will say that because I don't want to talk about it much. I think you start to see the hands come in. Polanski loves hands grabbing at stuff. It's just like a very.
And it's a really cool effect that they did of like the hands coming through this, like it was like a plaster wall or something. Like kind of like this same kind of stuff they would use to like make a cast of a face, but they used a hand, and it's a really cool effect. Yeah, no, and it is scary. The one thing I will say that he gets right is in his later apartment films is the illusion of like safety at the beginning, like you kind of in Repulsion, it's just the whole time you're like, this bitch is crazy, like from the get-go. You know what I mean? And she gets crazier, so there is still an arc that happens, but I think perhaps maybe that's something that could have been left that was left on the cutting room floor or something, that perhaps there were some scenes of her, because this is a woman who can't stand male contact, right? Crazy. She can't stand male contact, doesn't like to be touched. She's beautiful. It's Catherine Deneuve. She's beautiful, so she has many male suitors and stuff, and then she eventually just goes crazy and starts killing people in her apartment. Very fisheye lens and stuff. And Polanski talks about doing acid for the first time and seeing a lot of like fisheye lens stuff. So a lot of the stuff you see is size. I've never had that, but have you? You had fisheye lens acid trips?
No, but it sounds cool. Sounds like a 60s acid thing, Yeah, like the good shit back then.
Yeah, he was smashing that one James Bond girl, and I can't remember her name. Barbara. Gosh, I can't remember.
Lass?
Yes, he was fucking her, and I think they did acid together, and he just saw her like turn like demonic one time, and he was like, "Oh fuck,
I've seen that. That's for sure real." Yeah, that's a.
This sucks. Women could never ever be a devil, not one. That's not real what they're showing me. But he was like he was like, that freaked me out. And then like when him and Sharon Tate got together, she's like, no, you can do acid like this is much better. And then he was like, oh, this is great. Acid's great. But you never got like, he never seemed like super drug addicty. Like I mean, not enough for him to talk about it. But again, these guys are also just getting drunk every night. So like their idea, this is not like straight edge, clean and sober when people say they're not drinking. You learn that a lot. If you read James Joyce's The Dubliners, they're like, you need to not go out drinking. And they're like, anyways, we have 15 bottles of stout and a half liter of whiskey at our house, but we stayed home. So we were sober.
We just don't need to go out.
Yeah. It's like this idea. You see these things now, people saying like, people are just so out of control and like drinking is like killing this country. I'm like, we probably drink less than we ever have. Like, I mean, maybe not ever, but like then our grandparents did for sure. Boomers used to just get like, just drive drunk and like smack their car into like a tree, like a brush against a tree and be like, haha, fun night. Like just, they used to just do that.
Before like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, I think my dad told me stories of like cops like stopping drunk people and not arresting them or anything. They would like drive them home. Instead, like it just localism. It was localism. I mean, it was you knew the guy. A lot of times because he drove you home drunk like 5 times. You got to know him. But you knew the guy. And different time, very different time.
And it's crazy because of how strong cars were back then. Because it's like, damn, if you like hit a pedestrian though, it was a wrap. Like,
just Twin Peaks: The Return. The
Lawrence Taylor failed blitz pickup. Like, just like just your back just crunches. But so yeah, Polanski is he makes Repulsion. It's a pretty successful movie one way or another. I don't know if it made that much money, but it was definitely, it got him talked about, and people were like, there's this hot new director, European director. LA then sets their sight on him and is like, bring this man over here ASAP. I
think Knife in the Water is what got him in time.
Well, he got an Oscar. He got an Oscar nomination, I believe, for Knife in the Water for best foreign. But immediately upon impact, like, it didn't do anything. But it was Knife in the Water I think people went back to Knife in the Water after Repulsion. I think Repulsion started getting seen in like England. Or I'm sorry, Knife in the Water started getting seen in like England after the success of Repulsion. So I think that's, it's a kind of unclear.
The Poles didn't like Knife in the Water. The English speaking world kind of did.
Yeah, well, it has a lot of French New Wave kind of, or like kind of Frenchy look about it. Like I can see it has like that cool like black and white kind of drab French look to it that I think a lot of people respond to. Sometimes that bothers me, so it's not for me. I
also like that Polanski's kind of dismissive of the French New Wave at a certain point. He likes Breathless and he likes Claude Chabrol, and everyone else he's like, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say he does get married to, or he gets married to this girl. She's just like an actress. And I think this is actually in between Repulsion. A lot of stuff's happening in the late 60s. It's kind of,
she was in a couple short films he did.
Early
on.
Yeah. And so he marries her, but she, after a while, becomes like a bigger star. For a while, she's in a lot of French films and stuff, and he was like, "I'm not gonna follow around this fucking broad all the time, and fucking, like I'm this is not gonna be for me." And he's like running out of money, basically, and I still feels less about the money than it is being second fiddle to your wife, which would have been interesting seeing how Sharon Tate's career, because she was more or less probably gonna have some roles in the 70s and stuff, and like would have been interesting to see how that dynamic. I don't think they would have been married forever. That's just my opinion, but it's a pretty safe bet actually. But he marries this girl Barbara, and it turns out like after a while they go apart. He's going to film in London. She's staying in France. Guess what? They have sex with other people. Lots of them. Roman the whole time is just like, I had my wife, but then I was like fucking these girls over here. Like he just doesn't like, a lot of biographies you'd be like, now comes time for something I'm not proud of, my infidelity. He's like, anyways, I was just fucking this girl.
He always says make love. He's kind of a romantic.
Yeah,
he's kind of a romantic.
No, it's European. It's European. We make love. Like it's just, but it's like nastier than like anything you've ever done. Like you're just like, I already know you did spitting in mouths and stuff. You're like, you're nasty. I already know what you do. You freak. And then it doesn't get annulled right away, but the reason that's important for saying is eventually, he comes over to is the next one the vampire
Cul-de-sac.
one?
It's Cul-de-sac.
The next one's Cul-de-sac, of course.
Yeah.
So Cul-de-sac is getting filmed, and that is another disaster filming set. There's really funny stories about the main actor being so grateful to get the job, but then like halfway through you realize why nobody wants to work with him, because he's just a fucking loser and an asshole. Cul-de-sac's fine. Again, you don't like it. I think it's fine. I haven't
seen it in a while. I might need to watch it again, but I
don't know. It's also one I watched it once and I was like, all right. But it's kind of his like passion project. He wanted to make it like even before Knife in the Water, I feel like. And his buddies were like, it's kind of the characters are based on my friends. Everyone's gonna think that those guys are really cool. It's kind of like an inside joke movie, I feel like. Where people try to extract all this meaning from it, and it's like, no, he's just like, this guy reminds me of a guy in my village. You know, and all right, that's fine. It's Donald Pleasance is in it. The trailer that was infested with earwigs stays in my mind for a long time. He had a trailer, like a new trailer that the studio bought him that he was sleeping in because they were filming it in this rural castle island. And he's just like, my trailer has earwigs all in it. There's just so many earwigs, and he's like trying to fuck Jacqueline Bisset, I think it was, and so something like that. and she's like, let's go to your trailer, and he's like, not my trailer, like there's earwigs all in it. It's like such a Polanski premise of just like bugs crawling all over you while you're like, I mean, is everything okay? There's bugs everywhere, like Mia Farrow freaking out or something. You don't see the bug. What the fuck are you talking about? Bugs. Yeah, you picture like that happening is really funny. Cul-de-sac. I don't even remember if it did well or not. It didn't seem like it did.
I've seen it once. I don't remember anything about it.
He talks about it, but he's built a decent catalog. He's definitely on the. If you are like a cinephile at the time, you're kind of like, watch out for this Polanski guy. You're waiting for his.
He's on the come up. Hasn't quite made the movie yet, but he's one to watch.
And then is that after? And then is the vampire one the
Fearless
next one?
Vampire Killers is next,
which I still have never seen. However, I will say if you're a Polanski and Sharon Tate fan, that's the one movie they do together. She's in it. They fall in love. He just is obsessed with her. Just absolute hard eyes, Looney Tunes, like just again, his style completely changes in the book. It's much more romantic as opposed to anything else that he talks about in there. Sharon, and to be honest, the reader falls in love with Sharon. You fall in love with Sharon when you read the book. You're just like, holy shit, this dude hit it big with her, because she clearly was like free love enough to where like they could both have sex with whoever they wanted and it didn't matter. But also she was like traditional down home Southern kind of, because she escaped a military family, but still would like, you picture you're frying fucking balls on acid at Polanski's house and in LA. And well, not that night, but the other nights where other cool things happened. And then you realize like a plate of like Southern cuisine comes in front of you by a girl wearing like a beautiful outfit, and she just serves them like food, and it's just like, this is great. And he's just like, this is incredible. Everybody loved her. And the Fearless Vampire Killers was just a disaster. He didn't want her originally because he didn't think she looked the part, but after a while the hair and makeup team said they could do it, and that begins their romance. That movie sucks. Apparently I haven't seen it. I don't feel the need to.
It's like a parody of Hammer horror films,
right?
I'm curious about it, but it's another Polanski comedy, so I assume it's
that, and Pirates are like married together as his like, what the fuck, I bet you didn't realize he did this type.
I kind of want to watch Pirates. That one seems kind of fun.
It might be.
From the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that red candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, can't do
shit. This is all leading up to Rosemary's Baby, which is the first real film that we will focus on here. Rosemary's Baby is a masterpiece. It's a classic. It's made in Paramount, right? Paramount needed a hit. Bob Evans, you've listened to Bret Easton Ellis if you want to know who all these people are. I still don't know who they are. I don't care.
Bob Evans, who's head of production at Paramount.
Yeah, but it's like the people. Edward Taylor. I don't know that fucking guy that works at the parking lot at Paramount. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. But like, it
doesn't mean anything to me either. But I like hearing it. Like,
I like hearing it. But there's people who are like, oh no, actually, Edward Taylor wasn't at Paramount. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's just like, to me, the movie's made. The movie's made, and this is. There was a lot of drama on it, but for a Polanski movie, it went rather smooth. I think like it's like there was definitely problems.
It took a long time, and there was,
as the case for all his movies.
Yeah, and Polanski was really starting to get this reputation as kind of a Kubrick diva director. Which
you think Jolanta went to? He was so mean to me on the set of Knife in the Water.
I wonder if she ever talked to Faye Dunaway.
Yeah, and Faye, that's what's beautiful when we talk about that. That is just like a tip of the cap. Like, I'm fighting the master. You know what I mean? The master against the master of like being a dickhead. That's what I love about it. Like Western Showdown, respect for your opponent, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro Heat restaurant meetup. Like, it's just all like that's what happens. But so Mia Farrow is coming off of Peyton Place. which massive nighttime soap. I don't know the history of soaps that well, but it's a big thing. Ryan O'Neal comes from there as well. So there's a lot that was a big breeding ground for a lot of 70s stars. And Mia Farrow plays a woman who really wants to have a family. And she's married to John Cassavetes in the film, who's fantastic. I don't know why he says he's not good in this movie. I think he's fantastic. Polanski's like this guy. I think it was kind of a dick swinging contest between him and Cassavetes, because Cassavetes is one of those guys that makes his own passion projects. Like you either love his movies or you hate them, but he acted for money to fund those projects. So he's taking Rosemary's Baby as a studio money job, but he can't put his like director hat to the side. And is going like, Rome, we got to do it like this. We got to do it like that. And he's just like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like don't ever fucking talk to me like that. Like, but I think he plays the kind of come on, like straight, like kind of contrast really well in the film. And the film is about a woman giving birth to the Antichrist. It's you don't quite know that that's what's happening throughout the case. But now that you do know, if you haven't seen it, there's nothing spoiled about the movie. It's still, you can know everything that happens in this movie, but you watch it, there's not really a lot of jump scares, if any, which I think turns a lot of people off of a contemporary horror. But I think, I'll say it right now, my hot take, this movie scares me more than The Exorcist, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah.
What are your thoughts on Rosemary's Baby?
Well, I mean, it's maybe the best horror movie that's ever been made.
Tough to argue.
I can't think of a better one. Exorcist, maybe, but
I would agree with I would never argue with somebody that says it's The Exorcist. For me, it's weird. I am a Catholic, and I think that shit. My opinion is, I think a lot of people get more scared of like outright demonic possession when they're not Catholic. It's just my opinion. Like for me, I'm kind of like, you run to God, like you don't allow that to happen. Like for me personally, like but I get it. I could be speaking out of my ass there. Maybe people just, Rosemary's Baby to me is just like this kind of this building of like a beautiful family life that's happening, and like a really, two young people and stuff, and the illusion of normalcy in these nice old people. People retcon. I even did this too. I hadn't watched it in a while. People retcon them as like scary from the get-go, but they're not. They're not even eerie. They're very nice. The woman looks like trooned out fucking Polanski, actually. The woman, she looks like Franny Polanski, which we later get in another film, in an apartment. But she looks like I'm not kidding. It's a great movie.
Dude.
Tell you, The Tenet. A lot of people haven't seen The Tenet. Like that's kind of like one of his, in my opinion, one of his classic films that just not a lot of people have seen. But if you like Rosemary's Baby, you'll love that movie too. It's even weirder. But you watched this movie.
Yeah, I was struck by how it's kind of got like a cheery vibe, and like a funny. It's funny too. It's really funny, and obviously it's really fucked up. But there's a lot of parts I thought like with the haircut, and he's like, "Oh, what the fuck, dude!" It's
Vidal Sassoon. And actually, there's a funny story about the haircut. She, Mia Farrow was married to Frank Sinatra at the time, which is the weirdest marriage of all time. Like the weirdest marriage of all time. Polanski talks about, he's like, we would go chill with them, and like Frank Sinatra would do a commercial for the Vietnam War, and Mia Farrow would have like Indian drum circles against it, like at the house. And like she was a total just like hippie dippy girl, like child of Hollywood, just one of those like rich girls. But she, Rosemary's Baby was supposed to be like, I think a 4 or 5 week shoot. That's what the studios allotted, 4 or 5 week shoot. And Sinatra is like, they used to crank movies out. Like they used to just crank them out. You had people signed to Paramount that would be in your film. Like it was the studio. This is kind of to the tail end of what we know as like studio.
It was the end of the old, start of the new.
End of old Hollywood, start of the new. This is like kind of a good transition movie, actually.
The Graduate, Rosemary's Baby.
There you go. Mike Nichols and Polanski.
They have a lot of crossover.
Bonnie and Clyde, I think, is the new Hollywood. Is like the start of it, and then everybody could argue something else, but Frank Sinatra divorced her on set, or not on set, but she got papers served to her on set, and like so like they're like, Mia, you ready to shoot the scene now? What Polanski's like, you can take the day off. She's like, no, I think it's better if I work. And Polanski's like, actually, yeah.
I don't.
Like, he's like, that's a really good idea. You just like, we need you to be sad as fuck and scared. Like, this is perfect.
He's like, all the sad scenes. Let's do all the sad scenes today.
Frank Sinatra,
they shoot him out of order.
And Frank Sinatra hated the haircut. Frank Sinatra was like, what the fuck? Come on, you fucking embarrass me like that. What the fuck? You know?
Come on, dude. Yeah.
I mean, because it does look like shit. She's cute at the beginning. Like, you look
at
it,
it's really bad. It's really. It really.
And she's pale, her like chalky pale face.
And she looks like a demon.
Give her like the adrenal exhaustion, you know, the fucking
She looks like a corpse for like a good 20 minutes of the movie.
And it's like, it's kind of like campy the way she looks, but it adds to the high strangeness is what I like about it. Like so Frank Sinatra divorces her on the set. She eventually gets in with Peter Sellers, who played the Pink Panther and Dr. Strangelove and was a huge hippie guy. And they would hang out
with Sellers, dude.
Yeah, they would hang out at Polanski's house with like Sharon and them, and they would just be like frying out on acid, like UFOs, like they would be seeing. I actually fully believe there's UFOs in Laurel Canyon. There's something weird about that place.
Sure.
Obviously, everyone agrees. Oh, Cody, I heard the chirp. Are you chirping, dude?
Yeah. Dude.
Come on, dude.
I am actually a black man, as it turns out. So.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're listening on audio, don't click the video. It's just the case.
I'm like, if Kelby Losack is like 90% black, I'm maybe like 30.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Yeah. So I think that's fair. So the movie, there's a couple parts of it that are really, really interesting with I think a lot of those old people are old Hollywood actors and actresses, aren't they? Like, they're pretty like well established. I don't know the others. Very interesting to get those people to do something they probably would never ever do. Like, you think they would just never ever be yelling "Hail Satan" like with smiling faces at the end of it.
I love the Japanese guy.
Love the Japanese guy.
Like, just the idea of a Japanese Satan.
That's the mother. That's the mother.
Oh, hail Satan!
Yeah, yes, it's Rosemary. That's the mother. But yeah, it's the insemination scene. I forgot how fucking trippy and psychedelic that was.
So tight.
It's so sick. Like the captain pointing.
It's weird. Like, what's the? Does it make sense? Does it like? Is there some thing I'm not getting about it? Because it fits and like, it's this is tight, but it's not even. It's creepy, but it's
well. He's just going. They're sending her to hell to the child go down,
but it's
below
like
deck between the fiery.
But the sail, you know, the fucking like the sailboat.
I was thinking a lot about like the Scientology thing of like they go on the boat to find out the
Sea
Org shit that's actually running it. There's you could talk about like I haven't read it, but Moby Dick of. Going out to sea.
I think it's New Frontiers. I think it's like we're going to New Frontiers. Like, look at all these
the Leviathan in the biblical demon or whatever.
Also, it's probably just a safe ass place to conceive a satanic child.
Yeah.
Like, I actually just think like let's do it in like maritime law.
Yeah.
Like,
international waters.
What are you guys doing out here?
This is the new globalism.
Don't worry about it. Shut up. Keep sailing that way, dude. Fucking wind's not going this way. What are you doing?
It's one of the best looking movies ever. Like some of the best cinematography of I think it's Jonathan Frakes.
Yes.
Who also did Bullet, I want to say.
Yes.
Which is why Bullet looks kind of like a Polanski movie.
Bullet rules.
He also did The Graduate, I want to say. That
perfectly shot movie.
Maybe Day of the Dolphin as well. I don't know, but
it would make sense of him and Mike Nichols having a lot of the same.
They had a lot of crossover this time.
It makes a lot of sense. Even Virginia Woolf, which like the Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf could. It's not script wise, not a very Polanski movie, but there's a lot of Polanski premise stuff happening in that as well.
Mike Nichols is like if Polanski could make a comedy.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's a good point. And then Mike Nichols, conversely, was the first person or one of the first people offered The Exorcist, and he turned it down. Which everyone tells him, Mike, you couldn't have made The Exorcist, so you would have made a failure of a movie. Like it's like people that Star Wars. Like George Lucas is the only one that could have made that film. Like William Friedkin was not going to make Star Wars. Like it's just
Lucas almost made Apocalypse Now. Actually.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Zoetrope. Zoetrope. That makes a lot of sense. San Francisco guys, Marin, whatever they were. But so Yeah, the insemination scene is crazy. I love the apartment. I love the apartment. I think their apartment looks awesome. Didn't you say somebody complained that it was too yellow?
Yeah, so I was at like a meetup thing for like local filmmakers and stuff.
Oh,
and,
that sounds wonderful.
Worst fucking night of my life, actually.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And this guy, he asked me what my favorite horror movie was, and by this time I'm like, I want to kill myself. I should have left at this point.
I saw the TV glow.
I don't think that movie was out at this point.
Oh,
this is a couple years ago. And I said Rosemary's Baby, and he said I didn't like that movie because it's too yellow. And I was like,
I'll fucking kill you, dude.
I will. What if I just slit your throat right now?
Yeah, irreversible with the fire extinguisher. Just right then and there. Sorry.
Brutalist rape. Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, rapist you. Yeah, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love it because the use of the music's great. So I said there was game. Which part are you talking about for GameCube? I didn't have a GameCube.
It was I forget the part, but it was like
it the strings, the very string heavy part.
It was like 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah,
after when all the doctor drama's going on, it's that
yes,
like when the cube's rolling around.
Okay.
It was literally I was like, did they steal it from that? It was so close.
Very possible. Very possible.
That would be the coolest thing Nintendo's ever done.
Yeah, I wish I would have wrote down what part or timestamped it, but yeah, it's like 2/3 of the way through, back half. Yeah,
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility that happened. To be honest, like that they're at least inspired by it or something. But I love.
It's funny because the next movie we're gonna talk about had like almost no music. It seemed,
Chinatown?
Yeah, it was a very.
You get that beautiful.
But it's like it struck me because then I looked on the Wikipedia page and it's like, oh, they had won, it's the best soundtrack. It had this crazy, but I was like, damn, it's very sparse,
There was a big change that was made about that movie in that regard. It was supposed to be maximalist. But just a couple things about Rosemary's, the final scene, or not the final scene, but the climax scene, which. If you want to scare the hell out of me, I know I'm not able to carry a child. Some liberals would disagree. I can't. But it's just not happening. And but there was the part where she's being held down, and Dr. Saperstein, which is such a great name. Polanski and Sharon Tate's dog's name. Dr. Saperstein. He called his dog that. That eventually got smushed in the driveway. He gets Dr. Saperstein comes in with the syringe. I love like the other doctor too. The doctor's like, "What the fuck are they giving you? Like, what they're giving you? They're like, she was canis root and like milk and raw fish and stuff. Like when she cooks
Satanic Soul Bra was just like dosing her.
Satanic Soul Bra is exactly what she was doing. That's exactly what she was doing. Yes, Satan bra. Yeah,
raw liver. Yeah, literally raw liver.
Solomon bra. Yeah.
Or when what's even scarier than the raw liver is when she cooks the steak for like literally 10 seconds on each side. It's like, why should you do that?
I always forget
they call that blue. I'm like,
what?
One level
medium rare plus
steak.
Medium rare plus. Yeah. And she it's funny. And
no crust. No Ruth Chris. Yeah.
But yeah, that final scene, the music that's in there is great because the lack of music, the lack of music, you get the kind of when she's walking in with the knife. Camera right behind her, those beautiful walking shots where like it feels like Polanski's doing found footage. I love those. He's so good at walking behind women. Repulsion has a lot of that as well. And Tarantino absolutely got that from him without question. But walking behind her and she's got the knife in her hand after she's been fucking vaccinated with mRNA technology. It's clearly what happened. It's what they wanted to do to us. Never forget. And
Mark of the Beast.
It was the mark. I think it might have been the Mark of the Beast. And so then she walks up and she sees the upside down, which is still very scary. It's like, again, it's kind of silly, but it's scary.
The upside down cross.
The upside down cross on like the black like carriage. And she looks at it and there's nothing's happening. Everybody's just looking at her. There's no sound or anything. And then she looks down and sees the face. And then that crazy music comes in where it's like, whoa. And everybody starts doing the hail.
One of two jump scares in the movie. The first one is kind of like Satan's face.
Yeah, that one is scary too. That part is very scary. Where
those are like the only two like jump scares, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. By the way, the John Cassavetes thing where she's like, while I was sleeping, he goes, I thought that was cool. I fucked you while you were sleeping.
It was kind of cool for like a necrophile thing.
Weird. Why are you being weird? Yeah, but for a necrophile. Yeah, why are you being weird? Yeah, and then he gets the part, which that was a part that I never quite really understood. It was like not like understood, but like he gets the part. He sold his soul. Like that's where he turns. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and you actually wonder where if he turned far before that, if it was all orchestrated. You know what I mean? Like if it was all from the get-go orchestrated. Like I love how it's this conspiracy, really, where you can feel as paranoid as Mia Farrow. Like, is the landlord who we originally had, is he in on it? Like you could just be like, you can probably not, but you it all enters your mind.
Did you see that Apartment 7A movie that came out last year?
Never saw it. I heard it's good.
It's good. It's like a direct prequel. It ends at the beginning of Rosemary's Baby. And it kind of goes into that. And
there's also I don't know. There's also a remake of the film into a series, right? There was like with Zoe,
also directed by a Polish person.
Wow,
Agnieszka Holland. Yeah.
Really original, yeah. But but I don't know.
Black Rosemary.
I think it's Zoe Saldana, right?
Yeah.
Birth to an avatar, and so she
Rosemary's smoke alarm.
Yeah, they're like, "Hail Satan, beep!" Yeah.
In my defense, it wasn't the one beep. My dad.
No. Yeah, it's actually been happening a lot lately.
He's frying a steak for 3 seconds on each side. Got a little smoky.
Little steak blue.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Kevin Kautzman on the Downward Spiral episode, his burglar alarm went off during that, which we were talking about Lost Highway, which is a weird time to have your burglar alarm go off.
I was just listening the other day to the Sasha's podcast with Jack, and her air raid siren in Israel went off. And
that's crazy. That's crazy. And then so the other I just love the kind of John Cassavetes is actually a huge part of this movie to me. Like, and it's funny, like it kind of runs through him the more you watch it. Like, it's kind of like how he's acting. Like, if he's tripping out at any time when she's tripping out, because at the beginning he doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's just kind of like, fuck, I don't want to do this. But then, like, when she starts turning with the pudding, the pudding, which it's got a chalky aftertaste, or undertaste. She calls it an undertaste. It's got a chalky. She's so weird, Mia Farrow. She's such a strange person. She reminds me of like a Twitter e-girl nowadays. Like,
she
probably
eating.
Is. Kind of true. Yeah, but she's
shout out to my man Woody Allen.
Shout out to Frank Sinatra and Woody Allen. What's your type, Mia? Yeah, a little Jewish man, and then an Italian mob singer guy. Like, very, very odd. And then a child named Ronan Farrow who looks just like Frank Sinatra and Me Too's everybody. So that's Mia Farrow's legacy, but she's phenomenal in this. Cassavetes plays, but Cassavetes is great in it. All the old people are great in it. I also love I kind of love that the book. If you look up Ira Levin wrote The Boys in Brazil, the book too, which we covered on here. That really cool, Nazi South America movie, I think from like the late 70s or something. But he wrote the book for that, and then he wrote this, and apparently it was kind of a Roe v. Wade novel, where it's kind of like a bodily autonomy, which you can see it a little bit, where it's like, hey, what if you were giving birth to Satan? Would you then allow a woman to, terminate pregnancy? Like, I just like kind of, and some people be like, it's kind of like feminist baby Hitler, basically, is kind of like what it comes with. But I think Polanski finds a way to like not. I don't know if that entered his mind at all.
No, I don't think so.
And he read the book, and
he wrote the script too. So
and did you notice every time he adapted a book, he talks about the problems with the book, where he's just mad that the book isn't a screenplay already a lot of times, where he's just like, and there's too many diversions and too many digressions and stuff. It's like, it's a novel, Roman. That's like, it's called writing prose. Like, and he's like, I would cut all this out. It's like, no, I understand. That's what happens in the book. It's really funny. It's like, that's called adapting a book. It's as though
I think that's why he loved having a co-writer, so he didn't have to do it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I
Yeah.
completely get it, where you're just like,
Yeah.
I'll do most of the work. Can you just like literally start the motor for me a little bit on this? And that part's really good. But I absolutely love Rosemary's Baby. I can't believe I don't have it. Luckily, it was free on Prime for me. I have some sort of network that allows it to
I
be
found
free.
it on Canopy.
Wow. Canopy. There you go. New thing I just found out about.
Yeah, you need a library card.
Oh.
It's pretty sick.
So it's like Libby. It's like Libby for movies?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, cool.
I don't know what that is, but yeah.
Libby
cool.
is like Libby's like the free library. You can like electronic like Kindle.
It's basically
Libby's cool. It's bullshit though. It's like, yeah, there's 4 people ahead of you for this audiobook. It's like, just give me the fucking file, dude. I know you have it. It's like,
so it's not just a clever name, that Libby. But save the libraries, or else you can't have Chinatown. You
gotta wait 8 months for Canopy also does that kind of artificial scarcity thing where they have like tickets, but it's like you get like 70 tickets a month. And each movie is like 2 tickets or something. So like,
okay, that's cool.
It doesn't really mean anything.
I mean, this movie is a smash hit for Polanski. He is a no doubt rock star. And it's funny when he talks about before Rosemary's Baby, he's coming over. I think he's trying to get somebody to make Cul-de-sac for him or something. It's like he comes over to LA once, I remember, because he's trying to get something made that's not Rosemary's Baby. He ends up doing
I think it is Cul-de-sac.
I think it's Cul-de-sac. He comes over to LA once, and it was he doesn't say it this exact way, but it's pretty funny, like where he's like, for all my life I had to hide I was Jewish, and then I go to Hollywood and I'm meeting with like Hiram Rothstein and Morty Kepowitz, who are deciding if they want to give you a bunch of money, and it's like, oh, I'm Jewish now. I am Jewish. Like, because he talks about growing up, he was like, I'm ethnically Jewish. He's like, my father thought the aesthetic of a Christmas tree was sick, and we just like had one in the house, like in Poland. Like, he's like, we're not Jewish. Like, we don't go to synagogue and stuff. So, but he was like, when it's time to get that money, when it's time to get that Dr. Saperstein, when it's time to get that money, I am Jewish as hell. Because that is like, he was like, first they're like, no, that's good in Hollywood. It's great in Hollywood. They like prepping him. Somebody like prepping him on the plane. They're like, play it up, put the fucking yarmulke on, dude. Like, you're gonna make this movie. So yeah, he's a rock star at this point. Yeah. He finds a home in LA for a little bit of time. I think he wanted to stay there longer than he did. Thought it was paradise. Many such cases when people move to LA, and him and Sharon get like a mansion at first. I think it's like a mansion, and then like it's this big place. She wants a bunch of kids. She's a Southern girl. She wants a bunch of kids, and he's just like, I don't really want to do that, but all right, whatever. And after she was dating a guy named Jay Sebring before Roman Polanski. Now, this is a classic 60s moment, right?
Yeah.
The ex-boyfriend just chills with you all the time. And he's a straight hairdresser. Just Laurel Canyon things. And he's with them all the time. You have Wojciech Frykowski, I think was the guy's name. The other guy.
I think in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they call him Wojtek.
Again, Polish is W's or V's a lot. It's tough.
Yeah, Andre Vida.
My dad said the last name looks like an eye chart. You know, he's like, when you talk about Polish people, it's like the last name is reading the eye chart at the doctor. And Roman Polanski might be the easiest Polish name to pronounce of all time, actually. And now that I think about it, but he, so they move. And then eventually they get a spot on Cielo Drive. They have a lot of friends, right? And there are books written about conspiracy books and just regular Hollywood history books written about these communities in Laurel Canyon. I'm currently going through Weird Scenes at the Canyon at the moment. I will probably share my full thoughts on that, perhaps on a Glenward episode or something, because I have some things I like about it, some things that I think are kind of interesting that I'll talk about. But I will say Polanski's retelling of these stories is kind of still the most interesting stuff I've seen on it. And again, I haven't read the Tom O'Neill book, the guy who I think it's Chaos. I haven't read it. I am interested in that though.
I'm kind of interested in the Bugliosi movie, and
we should cover Chaos sometime. I think that would be fun.
And Chaos.
Yeah, we should cover that. I think that would be really good. But Sharon is she's training with a guy named Bruce Lee to do some martial arts stuff, as you see in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's brilliantly put in there. But Bruce Lee's just at the house, and he introduces Bruce Lee as like as Tarantino introduces him, as kind of a showman. Like,
Yeah.
nobody really like took him seriously as like I'll kick your ass kind of guy, but it was like, oh, this guy's a martial arts guy. If you want to learn how to do movie martial arts, this guy teaches you how to do it. But he's trying to get his own career going. Now, Polanski, I forget why he's gone away for the eventual murder. I forget why. I think
he was prepping Day of the Dolphin before
right,
it went to
a movie that he doesn't end up doing for multiple reasons, but at the time for Day of the Dolphin, which is this like cursed movie, very cursed movie, like just passed over 1 million times.
And actually, sorry to interrupt. Speaking of cursed movies, I thought it was pretty interesting, and I kind of liked how Polanski didn't talk at all about like the cursed nature of Rosemary's Baby. Like he did, like a lot of stuff happens, but like,
he got accused of that. He got accused of basically being the architect for making Rosemary's Baby, and it's like that's what you put out into the world. You can't be mad if it happens to you. Which I'm like, I disagree. I think you can be mad. I think you. I actually think it's a valid concern that you make a movie, which again is about abortion. Like the book, it's based off a book about abortion. Like it's like not, or pro-life, bodily autonomy, all of these things. And like there is definitely some. He's off to shoot Day of the Dolphin, and Day of the Dolphin or prepping for it and stuff. And he realized when he said Sharon flew with him like halfway, I think. And she was pregnant at the time, and it was an IUD. She had an IUD in and still got pregnant apparently. And again, all through the whole time, he's like, "Yeah, I love Sharon, but I was fucking like 9 other girls, but I loved Sharon," which I actually believe. I believe to be true. I believe if you asked him to power rank the 9 women he was having sex with, Sharon would be number 1. Just the way that he talked about that. I don't think a lot of women appreciate hearing about that, but that's I think that part is very much true. And he was talking about like a moment that they had together when he was going to go on the trip and she was going to turn back home or whatever. And he was like, I felt like that was just like, you ever have these things with people? You're like, I feel like even if it doesn't happen, you're like, that's the last time I'm going to see them. Something's wrong, And he was just like, yeah, but whatever, whatever. It's the thing that happens. And again, he's got a decent track record of not seeing people ever again. This is a guy who was in, Holocaust and stuff where you could be talking to somebody and then like 20 minutes later turn around and they're being taken somewhere. It's not out of the realm of like, but he also uses that as rationale to be like, Roman, this isn't the Holocaust. Nobody's doing that to anybody. And he gets the news of it. And just the helplessness of being so far away when one of the most brutal murders happened, where it was the Cielo Drive murders, Tate LaBianca murders. What we know now is the Manson family. Again, there's a lot of people who are Glenn, you don't understand what actually happened. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of it, but right now we're using the Polanski lens for this episode. I think it's far more interesting. Nobody talks about Polanski this way. I feel like everybody talks about the schizo version of Polanski, the pedophilia, all of these things, which I will touch on, but just the idea of somebody telling you that he was worried about missing the due date. He's like, I might have to leave early to come back home for my baby to be born. She was like 8 months, I think. And he was like, that's fine. JC brings there with her, Wojtek's with her. And then there was, I forget the other woman's name. I think Abigail Folger. It was one of the Folgers, coffee girls that was dating Wojtek. And they're brutally murdered. And it's rough. And Cody, take over for a second. Just talk about this because I got to find the passage in the book about where.
So if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you see like the opposite version of this, and I don't remember all the details, but when I remember more about the like press stuff that was coming out that Polanski talked about. There is like people were saying there's like witchy marks, like X's and like satanic like insignia on them. None of that was true. They were just killed.
Right. They said, because I remember thinking it was like, they said they cut her like breast off. They cut which I think they did cut the baby out of her though, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, because that was always the thing, is they cut the baby out of her. Yeah. And that was like, I mean, but then like, because again, it's women and then Tex, right? So it's like, that's
Yeah.
still a lot of heavy lifting you got to do against 4 people, like to be doing
Yeah.
all that. I kind of feel like it, but like you said, and the media blamed him for a lot of it,
Yeah.
which is fucked up. So
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a classic, like, kind of like Ayn Rand Fountainhead thing of like the guy that's coming up and is at the top of his game. You see one thing that you can use to take him down. And Polanski talks about this. Like, the only thing people love more in Hollywood than a rising star is one that they can tear down.
Oh, it's why they like the rising star.
Yeah.
I think.
And
yeah.
I like a lot of his discussions of law enforcement throughout, and how he like is like very respectful to them the whole time, even when he's
they were like his therapy. I mean, it was crazy. He's a working director, but he obviously isn't going to be in a position to make a movie for a little while. And but the cops allowed him to like do his own mystery, which that kind of understands why Chinatown is so appealing. The nihilist mystery movie. But I want to read this. It's an end of a chapter, and I honestly I teared up a little bit when I was reading it. It was so sad. But this is about just kind of a retrospective on Sharon, and it's kind of his like eulogy for her in a sense. So basically, Sharon's death is the only watershed in my life that really matters. Before she died, I sailed a boundless, untroubled sea of expectations and optimism. Afterward, whenever conscious of enjoying myself, I felt guilty. A psychiatrist I met shortly after her death warned me that it would take me, quote, 4 years of mourning to overcome this feeling. It has taken far longer than that. There used to be a tremendous fire within me, an unquenchable confidence that I could master anything if I really set my mind to it. This confidence was badly undermined by the killings and their aftermath. I not only developed a closer physical resemblance to my father after Sharon's death, but began to take on some of his traits, his ingrained pessimism, his eternal dissatisfaction with life, his profoundly Judaic sense of guilt, and his conviction that every joyous experience has its price. There have been other consequences too. I doubt if I shall ever again be able to live on a permanent basis with any woman. Luckily, that wasn't true. No matter how beautiful, bright, easygoing, good-natured, or attuned to my moods. My attempts to do so have always failed, not least because I start drawing comparisons with Sharon. There are little things like packing a suitcase or getting my hair cut or dialing the 213 code for California or the 396 code for Rome that invariably steer my thoughts back to Sharon. Even after so many years, I find myself unable to watch a spectacular sunset or visit a lovely old house or experience a visual pleasure of any kind without instinctively telling myself how she would have loved it all. In these ways, I shall remain faithful to her until the day I die. Very sad stuff. Very sad stuff. But like you said, he gets really wrapped up in the investigation of it. In my mind, one thing I didn't know is I thought it was kind of right away people knew it was Manson, which is not the case.
No.
I didn't know this. I'm actually pretty uneducated about the thing, and I want to learn more about it, and I will.
I'm fairly uneducated about it too.
And it's wild. I only know about it just from like listening to certain podcasts that reference it. Brady Snellis talks about it a lot, and just a lot of things. But this shapes a lot of. I mean, this is a truly like a cornerstone moment in American history, like especially American entertainment industry. Like, there's a reason the 70s are a nihilist 70s movement, and it's not just Jimmy Carter gas shortages. It's people die. A lot of really fucked up things happen at the end of the 60s. Again, I fully believe a lot of stuff is psyoped in. I'm not exactly a psyop maximalist in a lot of it. I do think that there were individual actors. I do think there was free will still of a lot of people, but I do believe there was a massive drug trade happening. I believe there were bad actors at these parties, and I believe there were scorned individuals who joined cults who then practiced black magic because look at what happens in Rosemary's Baby, right? I'm not saying it happened, but John Cassavetes, they keep saying a million times, what movies has he been in? And it's never a movie. It's I'm in something Albatross or something. I forget.
I don't know.
Some two things. They're meant to be like I think maybe they're real plays, but like they're plays. But and then in a couple commercials, and then meanwhile he gets the part after a guy goes blind, and it's like I think a lot of people genuinely. I think the land is cursed personally. I think Laurel Canyon is cursed. Like, because if you read this weird scenes in the Canyon book, it's not paranormal enough for me. That's my problem, is where I'm kind of like, okay, there's a lot of occult holidays being practiced here. There's a lot of these events that are happening around occult holidays. do you think that curses the land? And therefore, if we're talking about the deaths of Houdini and these people that move, you know, we're talking like the 30s and 40s, people like killing their kids in the house and stuff, like really fucked up things, which I fully believe happened. I'm kind of like, well, do we think that the land is cursed? And that to me is more of a, I don't know how you prove it. That's the problem. But it's just like, for me, it just seems like all the stuff that happened. You heard about David Bowie feeling just literally seeing the devil, as he said in LA. Again, peppers, milk, and cocaine that as your diet might conjure the devil.
Yeah,
but being 100 pounds.
At the same time, someone like David Lynch talks about LA with like just glowing praise, and he saw the devil in like Philadelphia and shit.
Yeah, I feel like that's where I would see him, is in a more like cold East Coast city.
Yeah.
But again, the devil's everywhere, so it's not right. But I do believe just some areas are cursed in the same way that you'll see like Mothman and all of these crazy paranormal things in rural West Virginia, where you just had constant battles and bloodshed in the Appalachian Mountains and stuff. Like, why wouldn't there be some weird ancestral spirit stuff happening? That's kind of where I go. Again, a lot of people think that scapegoats a lot of industry. No, we all know that there's weird CIA Inherent Vice level actors happening in that stuff too. Now, the interesting name is Jay Sebring in all of this. Jay Sebring, again, classic Laurel Canyon situation, dating Sharon Tate, madly in love with her, relinquishes her to Roman Polanski in a way, but then like doesn't go his separate ways, just hangs out all the time. I wouldn't keep the ex-boyfriend around personally. Just wouldn't be my case. Sorry. But
maybe Roman did feel a little guilty about cheating on Sharon, so he just was like, whatever.
Right. And he cheated a little too close to home a few times, which also is a theory of his, which he originally thought it was like John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas that did it, which again, if anybody knows anything about that guy, he could kill 4 people in a house, no problem. Like that guy's a psycho. He like molested all his kids and stuff. Like he was just an absolute freak. Like I mean, the Mamas and the Papas music is just bad vibes. I'm sorry. Like if you listen to it, you're like, this is scary. Like you'll watch like whenever a California baseball team's in the World Series and they start playing California Dreaming, you're like, this isn't like a happy baseball song. Stop playing this. Like it's a really sad, weird, just uncanny valley ass song. And he thought because Maureen Phillips and John Phillips were on the outs together, and Roman fucked Maureen Phillips, and he was like, which in my head, it's like he's thinking, he's like, damn, did this fool just murk everyone in my house because I fucked his like ex-wife? And it's like, you know, in your head you're thinking maybe. And then meanwhile you have to deal with Sharon's parents, who she ran away from, and basically, you know, the dad, it's kind of like you almost picture like the dad George C. Scott in Hardcore or something, like picturing like my daughter ran away to effectively do porn. I don't think she was doing porn, but she did Valley of the Dolls, which her character goes to do porn. So you know, one way or another, to his very conservative Southern thing, it's basically doing devil worship pornography and stuff. So her dad went undercover and started wearing like hippie glasses and like a beard and stuff, like Joaquin Phoenix Inherent Vice stuff, to like get, because he thought it was a drug related thing, which again, that's not a horrible guess. Like, and he was trying to like infiltrate it like Inherent Vice. It was crazy. It was a very, very strange. And then the other theory Roman Polanski came up with, unfortunately, was that he thought Bruce Lee might have done it. Which is great. Can you imagine that? Because like Bruce Lee was teaching Sharon Tate martial arts, and that was a common job for him. Now, Roman found a pair of glasses at the crime scene because he was going back all the time. They still left the pig sign on the door, which comes into play later. And the glasses are on the floor, and he's like, "Fucking Bruce," you know. and they're like, "You sure?" And he's like, "These are Bruce's glasses." Turns out it wasn't Bruce's glasses. But can you imagine if Bruce Lee did it? Like if he was just like, fucking rich white people, fucking, and then he just karate chops everyone in the house and like kills them and stuff. Like it's just like I feel bad because it's such a sad thing, and like when you lose somebody, your mind goes to all these like weird places that like rationale doesn't really, you know, you need like the person next to you go, no, that's not the case. And that's what the cops did for him, luckily. But like just to the point where it's like it's almost like pinning it on somebody because you just are like, now I can start mourning almost. And he just wasn't allowed to like mourn it for a long time. And then again, he does. Now again, Polanski is always a guy who stands an inch away from the fire at all times. Like he's standing an inch
Yeah.
away from the fire and will understand why it burns him. But also, like when he tells you, you're just like, why did you do that? And because he went back to the house for an interview with Time Magazine, went back to this Yellow Drive house where pig was in blood was painted on the door, the word pig, which eventually 9 Inch Nails, March of the Pigs, they record at that place and stuff. A lot of lore to the pigs thing. And he has a very, infamous picture of him sitting in front of there, which again, if I'm like Sharon Tate's parents, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what are you doing? Like, I would be pissed about that. But he did it and it got him in a lot of hot water. And he eventually needs to take work again. Yeah. He needs to take work again. Macbeth is next, right?
Yes.
Technically. Yeah. Macbeth put on by Playboy.
Produced Playboy. By Hugh Hefner.
Well, Playboy was interesting. Playboy was all about free expression back in the day. And that's why when people try to like go hardcore on banning any kind of smut, I'm like, understand these people were trying to get Henry Miller published republished again. Like, there were a lot of authors that
Playboy interviewed Ayn Rand. Like
exactly. Yeah. Like they would do they were Playboys. Like they would push the envelope. They knew and there were like legitimately, if you go, you can find some good like public domain stories. And I know there's a joke of like, I read Playboy for the articles. It's like there are some sick fucking things that were written in Playboy. Like it
was actually true.
Yeah, there's actually. I mean, you jack off to it too.
Yeah,
it's just to the pros, of course. And I'm jacking off to the pros. I know it's like all the centerfold stuff is gone, and it's just articles in the magazine. And your dad's like, "Fuck, he's gay." Thought he's like porn. Yeah. And anyways, Playboy hires him to make Macbeth, which is a very like British Playboy thing. It's very different. I don't think that's happening in obviously, it's all under Hugh Hefner and stuff, but that felt like a really good therapeutic process for him, even though he runs into the same kind of film issues. I think he was just glad to be working and keeping the wheels turning. Some of the hysteria has died down a little bit. I still haven't seen it.
It's great. It's great.
Is it good? I do want to say, because I do like Macbeth. Like I legitimately like Macbeth, but
it's a much more like literal, like word for word, almost adaptation than something like Throne of Blood, which I kind of like more.
And Playboy wanted nudity, right? Like they wanted nudity.
I think so.
And Polanski pretty much always gives you titties in every movie.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Are there titties? I'm asking. My long story short, are there titties in Macbeth?
It's been a while since I've seen it. I think so. Okay. I think the witches.
Yeah, I thought he said that. He was like, we had a scene. I can't remember if it makes the thing. In there,
it's not particularly like hot or anything. It's just like
that's the thing about his nudity. It's not always hot. He just says, "I will give you titties." Stanley Kubrick nudity is like big ass titties all the time, like like bouncing like eyes wide shut titties. Like just
he mentions in the book he got in a bit of hot water because there's a scene in Macbeth when a little boy is bathing and he's nude in it.
Yeah, they used to do that too.
Yeah, that was just a thing. It was 71. Like,
people used to. I've seen that in like mainstream ass like movies where you just see like a baby dick, and it's weird. You're like, whoa, but it's also you realize like a lot of people saw baby dicks like because you have kids. It's just like it's not that big of a deal, and people just weren't thinking about. Pedophiles jacking off to babies in movies, which everyone thinks about now, unfortunately, because it might happen. And you're just kind of like, it's weird where we're at right now.
Yeah, we live in this world where a lot of things might happen all the time, and we have to worry about them rather than just focusing on what is happening right now in front of your face.
Like, obviously, he's getting a lot of hate these days, probably rightfully so. But Bill Burr had that bit about like pedophiles ruined being cool to kids. Like he's like, I love kids. He just ruffle their hair and shit, and it's like you can't do that now. It's like,
so I used I talk about this all the time, but like I applied to be a it was like my high school job, my summer high school job, and even my first year of college was like a camp counselor, summer camp, fun stuff. You know what I mean? It was great. So I was kind of trying to like get easy money like through the year, and there was a thing called care.com, care.com that you would apply on, and it was kind of like I need a babysitter for like this. Dude, all of them were like, fucking faggot, no, you know, like, get out of here, you pedo. Like, you know what I mean? Like people like nothing. And I would
Right.
apply for jobs, and I would go, hey, like, I'm down. Like, your son likes sports. Like, I do baseball. Like, we could, do all this stuff. And they're just, and I get it from their front. They're just like, no, sorry. Like, just like at the summer camp with girls around, it's fine. No, you're not coming to my house. So I did, but it was just, back in the day, maybe it would have been a little different. I don't know. It's just funny where we are at now. But I get it, because I'd be like, I'm not hiring you either, asshole. But I was truly just like, I'm truly not trying to get down. Like, I'm just letting you guys know. Like, I surely have no urges on that front. Sorry. But sorry. Like, sorry to burst your bubble, guys. But I'm not a pedophile. Anyways, back to Roman Polanski. A pedophile.
Well, I was thinking, I mean, you read that passage. It was very beautiful and sad, but part of me was thinking he's just smashing the girl, the 13-year-old girl, and he's like, oh, Sharon Tate would have loved this. You think she would have loved this? Man, I wish she was here to see this.
I mean, first off, it wasn't his first 13-year-old, by the way. The one he smashed in 77. Because he has that thing where he hides out in the French Alps for a while. Everyone's like, Roman, let's get your mind out of here. I think it's Warren Beatty who's like, let's just go fucking party in France, and we'll go hit the Alps and stuff. And like, there were people that would just drive like 14, 15-year-old girls to the house, and they would just run through it. Like, so he talks about this one
story of like, like taking home these, like, he specifically says 16 to 19-year-olds, just like driving them. And then he's like talking about, like, thinking about, like, why am I doing this? Why? And this is the one time in the book where I thought Roman was being a bit like, kind of, what's the word? Obscuring his kind of intention here. It's like, I know why you were doing it, Roman. Like, don't. Yeah,
I know. For the most part, he is just like, and it's like, he just assumes like you do it too, right? Like, it's like what he's saying, like, to you, it's like, right, as you do, and you're just, it catches you off guard. And it's pretty funny. And but again, this brings us in to Chinatown. Chinatown is, I've been thinking so much about this movie, I even forget how it originated. Robert Towne writes a script. Robert Towne is all over 70s film. Parallax View, I think he's a part of the writing.
He did a lot of like uncredited rewrites, is how he
made a lot of uncredited. If your script sucked and like the movie, everybody already spent the money on this being a project and stuff, you would bring in a revisionist. This is still a thing to this day, I think. You bring in like a guy to revise it and get it down, which is funny how this happens, because to get Chinatown going, if you look at the common thing now, I remember, I think one of our first internet conversations you and I had about Polanski was people saying like, Chinatown's just such a perfect script. It's like, it's almost like you didn't need anyone to direct it or something. And I'm like, no, I see what you guys are doing. You're doing pedophilia erasure. No. Like, that's not true. Yeah. That's not true at all, because it's not the perfect script. That's completely wrong. It was 340 pages when Roman Polanski got it. That's a novel.
That's a novel.
That is a novel that you write. Like, I don't know how long screenplays are supposed to be, but every time I've seen one, they're not. I don't even think they're
about 80 to 120 pages.
Okay, 80 to 120. Yeah. Like, that's I would imagine
it's about a page a minute is what they say.
So who knows what was in the film? Like, who knows what was in that screenplay? Probably some of the incest stuff. Like, like who knows? But that's like, just if you love it that much, just novelize your script at some point. Like, if you love it that much, and I would read it. But
it was actually the first in a planned trilogy that Towne did. But Towne is one of these, like, what Jack would call like these like tranny do nothings that like like doesn't complete a task.
Purposely big ideas, so you never have to really confront the idea that you won't finish them, basically.
But it's and I've been down that road before, of just having big ideas and not being able to get them done. And the trilogy he had in mind sounded cool. Like, it starts with the water scandal in Los Angeles, and the second one is, I want to say, Nixon. And then the third one is the end of what was it? It's when no-fault divorce was made legal in California.
That is an absolute travesty, and we need a movie about that. But the Chinatown, what more is there to say? I mean, it is a masterpiece, 5 out of 5 in my opinion. It's tough to find anything wrong with it. It is extremely nihilist, and when you take this in the when you place this in the linear progression of Roman Polanski's life, you understand why it's so sinister and just like crazy. And he, to me, he takes over and he prunes this thing down to a regular length, which to me I think is a bigger feat than writing a 340-page screenplay. Because if you write a 340-page screenplay, it's not a screenplay. So you didn't write a screenplay. I'm not taking away from Robert Town. The idea itself is fantastic, but it's just this thing now on Leftist Box where they just fucking everybody has to say that it's Robert Town.
Yeah.
Robert Town. No,
and even Robert Town himself would like dissuade.
He hates the ending, and he hates the ending. Robert Town hates the ending. So his whole thing, which I'm sorry, this movie can only end one way. By the way, it's rough. So the concept of
Town does say there's some special features on the Blu-ray of Chinatown that I have. He does say that he eventually did like come around to Roman's ending.
You better.
His whole idea was the ending he had was like not exactly happy, but not exactly sad. The problem was that it just wasn't clear.
Yeah,
and
ambiguity
wanted it to be clear.
Sucks. Yeah,
and so Town eventually comes around and says, "Yeah, he was right there," and that makes sense.
R.I.P. Robert Town. You would have loved writing scripts in 2024. Because that's what you do is ambiguous ass endings where you have nothing to say, and it's just you ending the movie because you have nothing to say.
And to Town's credit, I think he would hate this whole like Polanski erasure thing because like the movie doesn't happen without Polanski. Like
no. Hilarious moment because again Polanski puts his boxing gloves on and he's like, Faye Dunaway, bring her on, let's fucking go. And she's fantastic. I agree completely with Bret Easton Ellis. Originally it was supposed to be Jane Fonda. She does not have a period piece face, so this is 1937. Faye Dunaway looks like a 1937 ass woman. Like a weird hot. She's like hot but not. Like angular and scary and cold.
She's it's kind of the same way I feel about what is her name? She's in the other Nicole Kidman. Kidman.
No, I agree. Girls think they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like girls
like, and gay guys think
girls would
hot.
like eat off of their skin, or their skin themselves. Like
they're like elves, they're like vampires,
I agree.
Like otherworldly beings, and
I agree.
They belong on screen, but I don't want to be in a room with
them.
No,
they're fascinating to look at. Like that's what being a star was back in the day. You're a star, and Faye Dunaway is becoming a big star at the moment. She's having kind of a revival of her career. She does Bonnie and Clyde, which that movie I think is extremely overrated. I don't know if anybody knows if you've seen it. It's good. It's good.
I think I saw it. Yeah,
it's good, but it's like it gets this credit for being like this.
That's Warren Beatty, right?
Warren Beatty and her and
it's okay. It's
on Clyde can't get hard. He can't please her, so it's like
I saw it.
Very sexual. It's a lot of like it brought in a lot of things to like a classic genre period piece that like sex and blood and like real, not just noir, bang bang, and then shadows. Like it was, it brought that in. But Chinatown takes that. Chinatown has this brooding quality where it takes the same energy of Rosemary's Baby, although it's never actually quite happy. But California just looks so beautiful that maybe you're fooled for a little bit. And Jack Nicholson, alpha, sick in this movie. He is so tight, and we get Roman. We get You know what happens to nosy boys. You know what happens?
Yeah,
we cut. He's basically doing we cut off your Johnson. In Big Lebowski that was a straight up like
exactly.
We'll cut off your Johnson. But the nose cutting scene is still one of the most painful things I've ever seen in movies.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like
I like Jack and Roman like eventually got really irritated like just like talking about how this effect was achieved, and it's really cool the way they describe it. They wanted to do it with like. I don't remember exactly how that like with like snazzy editing, but actually he wanted to do basically a magic trick with this like weird knife that they had to have make, and he would like he would talk to Jack. He's like, "Don't move, or I will cut your nose for real. So you better stay in place." And so it's a really cool.
It's gonna become a fucking found footage movie real fast.
Live leak 1974.
Yeah, exactly. and Nicholson, the water rushing down right before that, rushing down on him when he's doing the little nighttime reconnaissance thing.
Yeah.
The water rushing down, they had one take to get that right because Nicholson did it, and I was like, that's pretty impressive, like for a guy like Nicholson
Spry.
to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ball his life.
I love how this is just pure Gavin Newsom like fire shit, dude.
Water. Dude. I told you that last thing when the drought thing was happening. I'm like, this is Chinatown all over again. It's been happening forever, by the way.
Forget it.
No, it's such a good plot. Like, and boomers love this shit too, and I don't blame them. But they love talking about LA water rights. You know, my dad loved it, and because people made like billions of dollars figuring out how to control LA water, and you know, it's just a thing you did back then. You were the water guy, and you could turn it on and off and shit. It was or like a real estate developer, same kind of vibe, you know. But,
the connections of exactly. And right now, when you talk about Bernardino water just getting dumped out into the ocean while the farmers don't have any, you know, it's like not much has changed, has it? And it's all to develop land so that flush the farmers out. It's a sick ass plot, and then you realize like it's kind of like a Welbeck novel where it becomes focused inner, and then it's on the incest, you know, and you're like, oh man, like, you know, it's rough. John Huston, another legend in there, which Jack Nicholson would shack up with his daughter Angelica Houston and aid Roman Polanski in a fuck pad for his 13-year-old girl. So always funny how that works, as you do. It happens. And
Mondays,
we will we will talk about that. We will talk about that in part 2. But he you know, a couple parts of it, you know, Jack Nicholson, I one line that I love, and I don't know who's responsible for this line, if it's Town or Polanski, but there's the classic one. People see memes of it. And it's like, Mr. Giddies, are you alone? Isn't everybody? Right after you lose your wife, man. Right after you lose your wife, and you have two men talking in your room. And the whole idea of the irony of that scene is kind of like, you know, no, guys, like, I don't want her to know. But it's like, I do feel alone. And you get it is like a first person Jack Nicholson movie. He's in every scene of the movie. There's no scene that takes place without Jack Nicholson in this movie. And it's kind of like Mickey Spillane, like a Mickey Spillane crime novel, except Mickey Spillane wins. Mickey Spillane's guys always win. It's like Scooby-Doo. They always catch the guy. Yeah. This movie at no point ever leads you to believe that this thing's going to get solved. All it does is it gets more bureaucratic and complicated, and to the point where you blackpill really hard. And I understand Polanski being in that mindset during this. And this was popular in the 70s. And again, you see it now. You see this nihilist stuff now, and you just roll your eyes. But for one, it's done by people not as skilled, and two, it's done by people that like know real evil. And they also believe in things. They also believe in things. So their nihilism is that people just aren't Democrats and believe in climate change. So let's have a nihilist ending. And it's like, again, even like old Hollywood people are libtards. They probably like think that a lot of time. Not all of them, but like some of them even think like that. But they don't like being heavy handed. They don't like being ham fisted. Like they will launder it enough to where it at least is an entertaining film. The like Red Scare communist propaganda. And by Red Scare, I mean 1950s Red Scare, not the podcast.
Dasha, yes.
Even the communist propaganda at that point is still like, they're still good movies as far as I know, like High Noon and stuff like that. Yeah, oh sure. And one of the great lines in Chinatown is said by John Huston. I can't think of the name of the character right now, but Noah Cross. He says something like what is the line? You know what line I'm talking about?
I mean, he has a few.
It's most people never have to deal with the fact that what he said, I'll paraphrase. In the right circumstances, people are capable of anything. Yeah, basically, in a sense, he's saying, I am like there. You know, I know how evil I am. A lot of people don't know how evil they could ever be. Therefore, I operate with no remorse. You know, it's just this kind of and he's brilliant at it. And you know, John Huston directed The Maltese Falcon. I mean, the guy's getting near the end. He ends up. It's funny. For the Dubliners, we're going to cover his final movie because it's an adaptation of a Dubliners by James Joyce short story called The Dead, starring his daughter, and which is 1988. So he looks like he's getting close to the end, but he ends up living like another like 16 years. It's like kind of crazy. And but he
John, a couple of things about it is when you watch this movie, I could watch this movie over and over and over again. Polanski did the thing where The Godfather was sweeping the nation, right? The Godfather, everybody was like, whatever you do, make The Godfather. Francis Ford Coppola probably coming onto the scene at the time, and you hear, I can imagine Polanski was probably like, okay, that's him. Stop telling me to do what he does. That's him, right? And The Godfather was a surprise success. Much like a Star Wars was, where it was like, okay, a lot of people were like, this isn't going to work. It's a bad novel, like that sold a lot, but it's not really that, well, how's this going to transition? But if you notice Godfather, that movie is literally yellow when you watch it. Like the tint of the screen is like yellow. And Polanski had hired, I don't know if it was Gordon Willis, but I can't remember, one of the cinematographers, some guy who did some work on The Godfather or one of Coppola's films.
John Alonzo was the one that took over.
Right.
There was
the guy before him. The reason for switching him out was because he was getting his dailies and going, why is this shit yellow? And they're like, oh, it's like The Godfather. He's like, I'm not making the fucking Godfather. He's like, this is California. I'm making this beautiful, like, it's California. Make it look like California. Like this, I'm showing these beautiful oceanscapes, these fun towns, like, and all that. And but also, when you first watch this movie, I can watch it over and over again. And when you do, that first scene really sticks out to me. It's where the guy who comes in to play later, that kind of balding man, is seeing his wife get fucked, and Jack Nicholson warns him, and he's like, don't hire me to look for her some more. You're not gonna like the answer. Just take her back. You love her. She might love you. Later, you see that they're together still, and he asks him to step away from his wife and stuff. And you realize that Jack Nicholson should be taking his own advice, but he doesn't have anybody. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have anything. And we never really get a backstory for Jake Gittes, Jack Nicholson's character, but we know that he used to work in Chinatown in LA. He used to be a cop there, and something went wrong. Some of the other guys got promoted out of it, but something went wrong with him. And you parlay that to the end of the movie, where there's just that gunshot. And then the car just stops. It's fucking brutal. And the head on the horn.
The quick shot of I think it's either Noah Cross or the detective pulling her head up, and you see the exit wound. Ugh.
Right, which is the eye, the symbolism of the eye, which you then see when John Huston, Noah Cross's character, and Jack Nicholson first have lunch at that beautiful courtyard that they have lunch at. The fish with the head still on it, with the eye staring at him. You're just like, damn. I don't know. Am I drawing? I could be drawing. I mean,
it's fair. The eye is a big symbolism in this movie.
And it's private eye.
He finds the glasses.
Yes.
In the saltwater pond.
Yeah, that saltwater pond was sick.
Yeah,
I love. Yeah, and all those creepy Asian like house help guys, like
bad for grass.
Yeah. He's like, no, she's busy. But they're talking about the filming of this movie. By the way, one last thing before we talk about some of the nuts and bolts of this. One last thing about this is that if you watch this movie a second time after knowing the big reveal, it becomes a horror film from the first scene. It has a Polanski horror film, and it reminds me of, like, I can picture this being from like a late Steinbeck novel, like because Steinbeck has a lot of these really creepy, like, family incestual things that happen, and like he can shock you. He can really punch you in the mouth after like kind of lulling you for a little bit. And it just kind of reminds me, with all the Orange Grove scenes and all that, like really showing you California, not just cities, because LA is not the city that we know it at the time. It's very much becoming industrial. In fact, it's about that. And the whole idea is that, like, Chinatown is just one part of LA. However, it's so nihilistic that Jake Gittes is like, actually, it's all Chinatown. Even if I go on the outskirts of town, they're fucking with the water out here. It's all out of my head. I should have taken my advice at the beginning and just said, all you're going to find is answers that you don't want. And that's all he gets for the entire movie, is answers that he does not want. But Jack Nicholson and Roman Polanski become friends. Some people might say that's a bad idea. I think it's kind of nice. Jack Nicholson, you always hear about him being pretty damn cool. For the most part, like, he seems cool. Polanski liked that he could, like, yell at him and it didn't matter. He could, like, really, it was like a coach, like, it was just like a coach and a player, like, where he's like, I know how to deal with this guy. And he knew Faye Dunaway would return it back to him. I think Faye Dunaway talks about having to pee in like a pot or something. Like, he's like, oh, a bathroom break again. Your hair's fucking fine the way it is. Like, like, and then she had one hair that would be sticking up all the time. And I think it's that restaurant scene. I can't remember
I think so. Yeah.
Either the restaurant scene or the one where they have bourbon lemonade at the house originally. It's one of those two. But there's a hair poking out the whole time, and Polanski's like, I don't want to.
But he fixed his hair, so like it's right in the shot.
And he's complaining about unions, film unions at this time, where he's like, I have till 5 o'clock, or else these guys are on overtime, so I need to get this done. She's like, oh, we'll fix that in hair and makeup. He's like, no. He goes up and just yanks the fucking hair out of her head, and just goes, no.
Like and that. She like freaks out for a while. Fair enough.
One hair. I mean, I don't know. Like I just like I would tell him, hey, just get it, like, you know, like, whatever. But yeah, she again. This is like, it's probably not the first thing that's happened. It's quite literally maybe the hair that broke the camel's back. She spazzes out, but I think she didn't get paid too terribly lot for this movie. I think she got like
she was known as difficult at this point. There's
and then
Robert Evans tried to like warn Polanski, like, no, like she's like annoying, and Roman eventually was like, fuck, Bob was probably right, but
but her performance is unreal. I think she's one of the best actors of the 60s and 70s by far. Even movies like the Thomas Crown Affair with Steve McQueen, which isn't like that good, but it's
sure,
her and Steve McQueen are fantastic in it. So it's just like it's truly a star driven vehicle. She's at Network. I mean, all these movies that she does. 3 Days at the Condor, her and Robert Redford, the Sidney Pollack film. It's fantastic in that. So it's what the juice felt worth the squeeze, even though during the time you're probably like, fuck, this is a lot of squeezing. You know, this is a bad orange. But it's funny to take over the farm, though, to take over that farm where they do the shootout, where the Jack Nicholson's driving through the farm. The guy was like trying to harvest. He was like, and Polanski always took forever. And he's like, dude, I'm not fucking missing my orange harvest. Like, and he's like, oh, just one more, man. Just one more. Like, one more. He's like, you fucking asshole. And you feel like the scene was going to happen to him. Like there, like, we're going to start shooting you asshole. You know, like, these are my oranges. So that was good. My favorite part of the filming of this movie. Again, Sam Wasson wrote an entire book about this. So I'm sure there's so much stuff I'm not getting to. And I love Sam Wasson. Great, so you read it? The Chinatown one? He's fantastic. And but Jack Nicholson, again, we start getting like, it's getting near 5 o'clock today. We got to wrap up. But I was always shocked at like how much out of a day they would be like, and we got 10 usable minutes, and that was good. And you're like, I cannot make movies. I just realized I'm like, I cannot make movies. Can you imagine if we got 10 minutes out of what we said today? I'd be fucking pissed. Like, that's it.
I made a short. It's 2 minutes long. Took us 6 hours to do. 2 minutes.
It's crazy.
It's just the most fun I ever had in my life. But
and people like do it till they're deaf. Like, they can't stop. They're live. I mean, it's just like people who run ultra marathon. I mean, people like the torture. The torture is fun. To me, it's like the yield, the slow yield of it. It's like you see if you like your dailies, it's like 10 minutes. And
you see these, like, Soderbergh just shot his new movie in like 11 days or something, and it's like, fucked.
That's he's not fucking around. That guy. I haven't seen that movie yet. I've heard nothing but good things about Black Bag, but I know it takes a guy like that. I want the new trend for people to actually make 90-minute movies again, and because that requires editing and stuff. So like people to actually
himself.
Right. So I'm like, okay, I want that movie to be very successful. So because I want that to be the template instead of the 2 hour and 10-minute just slogs that on Netflix that just die in the graveyard that nobody cares about, that people get hyped about because Florence Pugh looks cool for like 5 minutes, you know, like this shot of Florence Pugh, it's like the movie sucks, sorry, like, it's not good, and she's it doesn't even look that good in it, you know. I'm this is a fake movie. I don't even know what I'm referencing, but everyone's seen these types of discussions where people shoehorn, pipe in the crowd noise, like, this is good because this, and it's all because people are scared to cut things out of their movies, and people are scared to actually, which, you know, you talk about somebody like Friedkin who lived in the editing room. That was truly, he was an editor of all things. That's why his son still does. His son edits Marvel movies. Right now, and which is a pretty good job to be having right now. And but Jack Nicholson, great story. Jack Nicholson, for anyone who doesn't know, massive Lakers fan. Lakers are in the finals this year, the NBA finals of I think it's either a finals or playoff game. Polanski's writing this autobiography, knows nothing about basketball. I'm not even sure. It could have been a regular game. It could have been literally a regular game. And I just think, he goes, I guess basketball, the Lakers were happening, and Jack kept running off to his trailer in between scenes. And he kept running off his trailer, and he's like, fuck, we have this shot. Like, we had lights, like we were ready to go. And when it's time to go and the camera's running, it's expensive. But Jack kept somebody go get Jack. And after a while, somebody went up and he's like, Roman, Lakers are playing the Knicks tonight in the finals, man. It's crazy. It's like game 6. Polanski goes into his trailer with a baseball bat and smashes the TV. And he's like, I don't give a fuck about basketball. So now Roman says, fuck, I did that. Like, in the moment, he's like, I think I might have ruined my film. Like, I don't know if we're gonna have a film after this. Jack Nicholson pulls up. I'll give you 2 guesses. What car Jack Nicholson was driving in 1972 to 1973 ish?
Oh,
2 guesses. Just first 2 things that come to your mind.
Would it be like a like a Bel Air, like an old school thing? No. Would it be like a Barracuda or something like that? No.
Volkswagen Bug.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's funny because you don't think about it, and then you're like, why wouldn't he? You know, and so he's a big weed smoker. You know what I mean? Like he's just part of that Dennis Hopper thing happening, and all Easy Rider. So he pulls up next to Polanski, and Polanski's like sports card out all day, complete Euro trash, like sports car. Like just pulls up and he looks at him, and Nicholson does that grin that he always does in every movie. And he just grins at him. He goes, fucking Polak, like that. And then he's like, that's my guy. Like, I love Jack Nicholson. And they were supposed to do Pirates together after that. But Nicholson kept upping his price to like 1.5 mil and stuff.
Yeah, because Chinatown made him a star.
Chinatown made him a star. Before that, I think he had done, was it 5
Easy Pieces?
Easy Rider. He has a small role in that.
He did some Corman stuff.
I don't know if Last Detail was before Chinatown or not, but
I think it is. But...
Yeah, so because I think Robert Towne wrote The Last Detail. So,
right.
So anyways, he's not the Nicholson quite yet, but he is a rising star. Yeah. But it's in my opinion, it's a masterpiece. You can and in a lot of people's opinions, if you've seen it, watch it again. If you haven't, make it the next thing you watch. I mean, it's so fun. It's like I said, it's nihilist, but it needs to be. It was when that was still kind of an edgy thing to do, when that really caught people's attention rather than had to listen to a supplementary podcast to rationalize the nihilism, to understand what was happening, like the accompanying Westworld podcasts or something. Like you understand completely what happens is that forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown. Yeah. It's a movie right there. I mean, it's great. Yeah. It's like I said, and Si, you were right about the score. Cody, do you remember what he did with the score? I think he originally it was supposed to be big, massive noir. Bum, bum,
yeah,
bum,
it was
like.
And then they did that score, and I don't remember the whole thing about it. Yeah. Eventually, Jerry Goldsmith gets on.
He was showing it to people, and people were like, "I don't think this has the same energy of what your movie's doing."
yeah,
and they're correct.
Yeah. And he kind of agreed. He just couldn't quite figure out what to do. And eventually Jerry Goldsmith comes on. He did he do some De Palma movies? I can't quite. Maybe I'm thinking of the Hitchcock guy, but
that's Bernard. You might be thinking Bernard
Herrmann. I'm thinking of Herrmann.
Yeah, who's another legend. He was part of he was supposed to do the Exorcist thing, and Friedkin was like, "This guy sucks." Bernard Herrmann. No, he knew he was like dealing with like a legend, but he's like, how do I tell this guy I don't like this shit? Because the guy was really like, Friedkin talked about Bernard Herrmann, and he was just like, I took the stuff to him, and this is what he's like, stopped him halfway through his sentence. You don't tell me what you want. I watch your movie and I do my thing. He's like, oh no, hey, Bernard Herrmann, you're the man. And then he got it, and he's like, this is ass, dude. Like, and and then you, like we said, we get that what's it called, the fucking classic Exorcist like music. Teach you how to do music thing that works so well. And Polanski's music, I mean, one more thing, Rosemary's Baby, right, to go back to there, that's Mia Farrow doing the la la la, like SpongeBob, her little SpongeBob fucking la 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 at the beginning. And it's funny because he was just like, the temptation to go get a real singer to do that is really easy to do and easy to fall into, and it wouldn't ruin anything. But like Mia Farrow is singing like a happy melody by somebody who's really sad. And even though I don't know if that's even what she's like trying to do.
Right.
So it's really interesting. Like I think there's a lot of like Bob Ross happy accident stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And you realize, when you start getting it, because we're getting into new Hollywood with Chinatown and stuff, and you realize like people talk about this new Hollywood stuff. I'm still a massive fan. I love new Hollywood. I love old Hollywood. I like it all. I like everything except for now, usually. Basically, I like everything up till now. It's pretty sick. So
I like to call new Hollywood the Silver Age as opposed to the second Golden Age or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But like people talk about this new Hollywood where it was like auteurs and people just like with free reign. It's like, no, they didn't have free reign. They just lied about what they were doing. They would lie saying they could get something done in five weeks, and they would turn into 5 months, and they would tell the studio executives to fuck off. And we like these movies now. I mean, Chinatown did very well, but like we love a movie like Sorcerer now. It's a bomb. It's considered a bomb from anybody who like is, even Barry Lyndon nominated for an Oscar. It's a bomb though. Like it's so you could talk. A lot of these studio executives are like, we were trying to control these guys because their films weren't making money. And so it was like, actually the power struggle was actually good. And now, Brady Stenellis talks about this a lot. It's all spent on marketing and advertising now. So what's the gender that goes into marketing and advertising all the time? Okay. So we spend all the money on that. And that's where you see just big marketing campaigns for movies that no one cares about. And all of these things, when really it was just like studios versus directors, film money versus the talent. These are like the results of a war is these movies that you get. And that's what I like about them. So, good place to stop. We will pick up after Chinatown and move into The Tenant. We're going to discuss Tess. We're going to discuss Bitter Moon, The Ninth Gate, and some more cool Polanski stuff. And that other thing that Polanski did in 1977. We're going to discuss that as well. So that's on part 2. I'm feeling generous. I think we'll make that part free, but don't be surprised if we make part 2. We'll see.